My elder sister and I, both white phoenixes, were wed to Phoenix Emperor Dante. Before our marriage, our father presented us with two ancestral arts of the white phoenix lineage. My sister chose the art of enchantment to captivate men's hearts, leaving the fertility secret to me. She won Dante's love but remained childless, watching helplessly as I bore 9 golden phoenix heirs in a single birth and ascended as Phoenix Empress. Consumed by jealousy, my elder sister poisoned me to death. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at the moment of choosing secret arts. This time, my sister beat me to selecting the fertility-enhancing secret technique. In this lifetime, the Phoenix Queen's throne shall be mine. Overjoyed, she believed she too could bear 9 golden phoenix chicks, never suspecting the forbidden art would consume its practitioner from within. Our White Phoenix clan possesses 2 matrilineal secret arts, Raven, Amethyst. Each of you may choose one to master. Our chieftain father laid 2 scrolls before me and my firstborn sister. One art could bind a man's devotion eternally, while the other granted prolific fertility, the gift of endless childbirth. My elder sister practically pounced on that fertility blessing technique. Father, I want this one. In her past life, she'd made a very different choice. In that instant, I realized my sister Raven had also been reborn. Both my sister and I were chosen to become Emperor Dante's imperial consorts. In our past life, when father presented the White Phoenix clan's secret arts, my elder sister Raven unhesitatingly chose the love cultivation technique that could make men utterly devoted. Our Phoenix clan values pure bloodlines above all. Fertility arts are but useless appendages. Just wait and see, the position of Phoenix Empress will undoubtedly be mine. My elder sister was brimming with confidence. And after we entered the palace, she indeed won Dante's favor through secret means. If she wanted the moon from the sky, Dante would have plucked it for her. With just the 2 of us in the harem, Dante's heart and eyes were solely fixed on Raven, scarcely ever stepping foot into my chambers. Upon learning that I had failed to consummate my marriage with Dante for so long, Raven grew even more smug, certain the Phoenix throne was within her grasp. After 3 years of marriage, she hadn't borne a single child. The Phoenix clan's shaman examined her, only to declare she was fated to remain childless. Under pressure from the Phoenix elders and the Dowager Empress, Dante finally consummated our marriage. A month later, I received joyful news of pregnancy. My elder sister smashed every porcelain in her chamber in rage, yet still carried herself with haughty disdain when she came to visit me. You merely conceived these children through fertility tricks, Amethyst, without the Emperor's favor. Do you truly expect your lowborn offspring to change your fate? I simply smiled in silence, gently caressing my belly. 8 months later, divine omens graced the heavens. On that very same day, I gave birth to 9 golden phoenix fledglings. Though Dante was utterly devoted to Raven due to forbidden arts, he understood what 9 golden phoenixes meant to our kind. This is the most exalted bloodline. The next Phoenix Emperor shall be none other than my child. Thus, the title of Phoenix Empress rightfully belongs to me. No matter how desperately Raven pleaded with Dante, evoking his deepest pity, it couldn't alter the inevitable truth. I would become the Phoenix Empress. Years of lavish favor had fueled her envy to madness, and when she saw me crowned with the Phoenix coronet and robed in crimson imperial splendor, she completely lost her mind. At my coronation banquet, she poisoned me with a deadly toxin that wrenched my guts and made me bleed from every orifice until death took me. The last sight my dying eyes beheld was her deranged face as the imperial guards dragged her away. When I opened my eyes again, we had both been reborn to the moment when father revealed the secret technique. Chapter 2, Seeing Raven Choose the Fertility Art. Even my eternally stoic father from our past life furrowed his brow slightly. Raven, the fertility art may not suit you well. Our ancestors warned it carries certain backlash. I watched his tactful admonishment with cold detachment, sneering inwardly. My father's favoritism truly knows no bounds. That forbidden technique does indeed backfire on the mother's body, yet in my past life, he never breathed a word of warning to me. It wasn't until I noticed my body failing day by day, with the healers finding no cause, that I began suspecting the fertility ritual. Only in this second life did I finally understand my father's well-intentioned scheme. He'd known all along that my sister's chosen mystic arts would leave her barren, and planned for me to bear her child instead. The one miscalculation in his plan, the royal bloodline running through the child I bore. He tried to dissuade me again, but the reborn Raven had her heart set on becoming Phoenix Queen. Why would she heed him now? Daddy, I want this one. What's the point of living if I can't have my own child? In the end, father couldn't win against my elder sister. Since Raven took the fertility secret, the remaining techniques belong to me. Raven, step outside for a moment. I need to speak with Amethyst privately. Raven nodded and left the room. I didn't expect any kind words from father, so I just stared at him coldly, true to my expectations. He dropped the affectionate demeanor he'd shown Raven. Amethyst, your elder sister is frail. As your father, I expect you to care for her in the palace. When she bears a child, you shall raise it as your own. Do you understand?" His tone was as cold as if speaking to a stranger, yet the words carried unmistakable command. I remained silent, watching him with faint mockery in my gaze. Father seemed uneasy, avoiding eye contact like a guilty man. "You're both my daughters, you should look out for each other." Ridiculous. When did he ever make Raven look after me in our past life? He never truly considered me his daughter. Though my mother came from noble blood, she was never the one he truly loved. Forced into marriage with my mother, he treated her cruelly. Even before my birth, he took his delicate cousin, his true love, as a mistress, siring Raven first. She bore only the name Raven, the White Phoenix clan's treasured jewel. I was merely granted the name Amethyst, humiliated and heartbroken. My mother passed away shortly after giving birth to me, within a year of her death. Raven's mother was elevated to the status of principal wife, thus Raven became my legitimate elder sister. From childhood onward, every good thing in this world belonged to her. Had Dante not specifically demanded to marry both Raven and me, I wouldn't even have gotten this chance to enter the palace. "Father, you jest. My birth mother passed long ago. I have no siblings whatsoever." 3 days later, Emperor Dante himself came to claim his brides. Dressed in crimson, he cut a strikingly handsome figure with an unexpectedly dashing air. He carried himself not like a lofty sovereign, but rather like a noble young master from a mortal aristocratic family. Father and my stepmother wore such forced smiles at his arrival that their faces nearly froze. The divine monarch's personal visit was the greatest honor our White Phoenix clan could ever receive. Emerging from behind the screen with my elder sister by birth, we were met with thunderous cheers from our clansmen. Heavens, the clan leader's daughters are absolute visions of beauty. No wonder the emperor holds them in such high regard. Indeed, though if I may say, the younger miss seems even more radiant. She rarely makes public appearances, doesn't she? Hush, didn't they say her fate was ill-omened? As the clan members' whispers reached my ears, I could clearly sense Raven stiffening beside me. Chapter 3. Few noticed that while we were both dressed in our finest today, her attire was conspicuously more opulent. Her crimson wedding gown was woven from mermaid silk of the southern seas, embroidered with golden threads. The jeweled hair ornaments she wore were all of the finest quality. Many of these items were actually part of my mother's dowry. Even within her dowry, numerous possessions rightfully belonged to my mother. This family is utterly shameless. My fists clenched as I watched Raven take a timid step forward, reaching hesitantly for Dante's sleeve. "Your Majesty," the 2 words dripped with sultry allure and lingering tenderness, yet Dante ignored her, striding directly toward me instead. Those crystalline eyes stared straight at me with piercing intensity. He looked vaguely familiar, but before I could recall where we'd met, he suddenly reached out his hand toward me. I hesitated for a brief moment before coming to my senses and placing my hand in his palm. Dante's hand was warm with the faint roughness of calluses from years of martial training. Without acknowledging anyone else present, he simply held my hand and led me straight toward the wedding procession. When I turned to look, all I saw were tribespeople with stunned expressions and 3 individuals wearing particularly grim faces. Raven struggled to restrain herself but ultimately chased after us, following me into the bridal sedan, though her disheveled appearance was downright pitiful, earning muffled laughter from several onlookers. Once inside the bridal sedan, Raven glared at me with eyes burning like fire. "Amethyst, how dare you use forbidden arts so soon? Are you deliberately humiliating me? Mark my words, don't think the Emperor's current favor makes you superior to me. Once I consummate with the Emperor and bear the golden Phoenix heir, the Phoenix Queen's throne will be mine by right. Mark my words, I'll repay today's humiliation 100-fold." As she raged and declared war at me, I couldn't even be bothered to lift an eyelid. "Then I'll be waiting for the day you birth the golden Phoenix Prince." Raven looked like she'd punched cotton, all that fury with nowhere to go as she sulkily took her seat. When we reached the Phoenix clan's palace, Dante reached out to lift the carriage curtain. His gaze was fixed on me, but Raven hastily stood up and shoved me aside. She stepped out of the bridal sedan first, oblivious to Dante's momentary frown. After a moment's thought, I could roughly guess why Raven acted this way. In her past life, Dante had always doted on her like a precious jewel, only causing her distress when it came to the matter of appointing an empress. Even after rebirth, she struggled to shake off the mindset of being the favored concubine, but in this lifetime, Dante no longer showered her with the same undivided affection as before. He watched coldly as Raven stepped out of the palanquin, making no move to assist her, instead taking my hand once more to lead me into the hall. Raven stood there, reliving the same humiliation she'd experienced at the White Phoenix clan's outpost. The palace maids and attendants all stared at her with peculiar looks. Raven's face flushed crimson, her vision darkened, and she collapsed unconscious on the spot. Her fainting spell caused her to miss the wedding ceremony entirely. A whole day slipped by in the blink of an eye, even causing her to miss the ceremonial tea the following morning. To make matters worse, Dante disapproved of her earlier conduct and assigned her quarters in the palace's most remote wing. A palace maid later brought word that Raven had smashed every porcelain in sight upon waking the next day. I gave a slight nod, though every inch of my waist ached with discomfort. That man Dante has absolutely no self-control. When Raven rushed into my chamber, she caught me having my maids massage my aching waist. She's no innocent maiden. She knew exactly what this implied. Raven's eyes instantly reddened. She shoved aside the blocking maidservant and lunged at me. Amethyst, you shameless bitch. Chapter 4. Her once delicate features contorted into something monstrous with jealousy. Not a trace of a chieftain's daughter's dignity remained in Raven now, pinned beneath her as she yanked my hair. I merely smirked in contempt. With her last thread of sanity snapping, Raven drew her golden hairpin and lunged for my throat. The expected pain never came. A large hand suddenly blocked my path. It was Dante. He'd received the message and teleported to my palace using spiritual energy. The golden hairpin had nearly pierced clean through his hand, yet all I saw on his face was sheer relief. Raven clearly never meant to harm the Emperor. She dropped the hairpin in terror, collapsing to her knees with trembling limbs. Dante's personal guard was the one who shouted her down. They encircled her like hunters cornering their prey, treating her as nothing less than an assassin. As Raven stared at those razor-sharp blades glinting coldly, the gravity of the situation finally dawned on him. Your Majesty, please understand, I was merely playing around with my sister. Playing around. Dante let out a cold laugh. Your White Phoenix clan's idea of fun is truly remarkable. On your knees, you'll stay there until Amethyst forgives you. His injured hand was still dripping blood, yet all he cared about was avenging me. A strange ache twisted in my chest as I scrambled to bandage his wound. Raven knelt on the ground, watching me fuss over Dante, grinding his teeth in helpless fury. The slightest movement from her would send the guard's blade tips pointing in her direction. It wasn't until dinner time that I finally belatedly remembered my elder sister and permitted her to rise. Unaccustomed to hardship, Raven's knees had swollen by then. Swallowing her resentment, she thanked me before limping out of my palace, still watching those insignificant people. Noticing how I kept staring at Raven's retreating figure, Dante seemed slightly jealous. With a wave of his hand, he dismissed the maids and guards before pulling me into his embrace. His warm breath against my ear sent tingling waves through my entire body. A delicate blush crept across my cheeks, yet the confusion in my heart only grew deeper. I never even activated that forbidden technique. Why would Dante treat me this way? I couldn't help but ask Dante directly, Your Majesty, have we met before? I suddenly felt a blush creeping up my cheeks after asking that question. Dante gently stroked my hair, his beautiful amber eyes holding only my reflection. Don't you recognize me, Amethyst, that year on Phoenix Perch Mountain? At the mention of Phoenix Perch Mountain, it all came flooding back to me. I was barely in my teens back then, having lost my birth mother early. Life in the manor was far from kind to me. That time when Raven falsely accused me of stealing her bracelet, we ended up in a physical brawl. When Father arrived, he kicked me hard without even hearing my side of the story. I pleaded, Father, that bracelet, it belonged to my mother. His face darkened, accusing me of being scheming at such a young age and framing my elder sister. No matter how I pleaded my case, he wouldn't listen, just held Raven, who was making faces at me, and shoved me into the carriage bound for Phoenix Perch Mountain. Phoenix Perch Mountain sounded poetic, but was far from being a pleasant place. Chapter 5. The water-lined spiritual energy. There was pure torment for our phoenix kin born with innate fire essence. Though the water energy tempering did bring some physical benefits, which is why many families sent their young there for training, my father shipped me off under the pretense of physical cultivation, a convenient cover for his blatant favoritism, while others came armed with rare treasures from their families. I didn't even have basic provisions. I survived by begging for scraps, mostly from this handsome older boy. He told me to call him Brother Dante, and basically raised me in the mountains for a whole year. Dante, isn't that just Dante pronounced differently? At that thought, I jerked my head up abruptly. You're Dante, aren't you? Dante nodded with a smile. You heartless little thing, didn't I promise to come back for you before I left? I was just undergoing trials in the mortal realm, yet you've forgotten me already. I felt a pang of guilt, but then reasoned it was only natural to forget after all these years apart. Before I could offer any excuses, Dante's lips met mine. Amethyst, he murmured, I've waited so long for you to grow up. He carried me into the inner chamber and laid me on the divan. Our skins touched, blending like water and milk, until our heartbeats gradually synchronized. I must admit, Dante truly excels as a husband. He attends to my every need with meticulous care, even smoothing things over with the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager who once criticized him for doting solely on Raven now turns a blind eye to his exclusive devotion to me. Of course, it might also be because Raven's actions were utterly outrageous. The news of her storming into my palace to assassinate someone but wounding Dante instead, resulting in 3 months' house arrest, has spread throughout the entire Phoenix clan. Father's letters kept coming one after another, but I tossed each one away without even bothering to open them. Nothing more than pleas for me to intercede on behalf of my elder sister. Having received no reply from me, father seemed to have given up as well, never writing to me again. 3 months passed in the blink of an eye, and I'd finally established my footing in the palace. Dante kept only Raven and me as consorts, leaving the Phoenix throne vacant without haste to fill the remaining positions. With Raven confined to her quarters again, the vast harem was left entirely under my management. The Empress Dowager would occasionally summon me for flower viewing and tea ceremonies. Those were truly idyllic days. When I saw Raven again, I was momentarily dazed. Perhaps father's message had some effect. Raven, who used to look down his nose at everyone, became noticeably more restrained. He wasn't so aggressive when we met this time, yet the look in her eyes when gazing at Dante grew increasingly fervent. Like a starving wolf spotting its prey, her excitement was palpable, clearly. She was biding her time to make a move, if she actually succeeded. For some reason, the mere thought left me unsettled, my chest tightening as if I couldn't catch my breath. The discomfort lingered until Dante arrived at my chamber that evening. Chapter 6. Dante immediately noticed my foul mood. Amethyst, what's wrong? He frowned, his eyes filled with concern. I shook my head, trying to shake off that inexplicable little mood. It's nothing, just haven't been sleeping well lately, feeling restless. I'll summon the imperial physician tomorrow to prescribe you some calming herbs. As Dante spoke, he positioned himself behind me, gently pressing his fingertips against my head. The emperor is actually giving me a massage. Even my palace maids, who were well aware of how much Dante doted on me, couldn't hide their astonishment at this moment. She hurried forward but kept her eyes downcast, not daring to look up. Your Majesty, my lady, Lady Raven requests an audience outside the hall. She said she had urgent matters to discuss with His Majesty. The suppressed irritation surged back instantly. I didn't need to guess. This was clearly Raven's ploy to consummate our marriage, but the person behind me merely responded coldly, not receiving. Whatever it is can wait till tomorrow, Amethyst, and I need our rest. The maid promptly acknowledged and turned to deliver the message outside, dazed. I instinctively turned to look at him only to have my chin seized in his grip. Dante's usually gentle demeanor made his unexpectedly dominant kiss leave me utterly lightheaded. Oh, Your Majesty, I panted heavily, glaring at him accusingly. Then came his amused inquiry, is Amethyst jealous? Jealous. My face burned as I instinctively tried to deny it, but Dante wouldn't let go, forcing me to look up at him. Meeting his adoring gaze, I gently bit my lower lip. Is this jealousy? Maybe it really is, in my past life. I never imagined Dante could treat me this well without being under that curse, and because of Raven, I never let myself fall for him, or perhaps I simply didn't dare to. Even in this lifetime, I'm afraid of getting hurt, instinctively retreating into my protective shell. But with Dante, did I truly feel nothing at all? Perhaps not. The gentle Dante of my youth and the man before me now kept shifting in my mind until I finally sighed. Yes, I was jealous. Joy lit up every corner of Dante's eyes. He pulled me into an embrace so tight it felt like he wanted to fuse our souls together. Amethyst, I know you have many reservations. You once told me about your family situation. That's why I proposed to both you and Raven. I knew if I sought only your hand, your father would scheme to have her take your place. Amethyst, from beginning to end, you were the only one I ever wanted to marry. I originally thought if your sister treated you decently, I'd let her leave the palace. But with her scheming ways, I'm not some saint, you understand. I blinked, feeling a sudden sting in my nose. So that's how it was. So this is the truth of it. No wonder Dante looked so sorrowful yet tender when we consummated our love in the past life. He came for me originally, but dark magic ensnared him, binding his loyalty to Raven against his will. How could we have missed each other for so very long? Chapter 7. Raven grew frustrated when her attempts to lure him out of my hall failed. The very next day, I couldn't sit still and waited for Dante along his usual path to my chambers. She wore a sheer dress that accentuated her graceful figure and delicate curves. Her perfumed powder was deliberately alluring, enough to enchant any ordinary man, but Dante was anything but ordinary, far from embracing Raven with the tenderness she'd imagined. He summoned me from the bedchamber to join him in admiring her dance. The noble Phoenix consort was reduced to a mere dancing girl. Each time she tried to stop, Dante would casually command, "Continue." Raven ended up dancing for 4 full hours. Only after Dante and I had finished our evening meal did he finally grant her leave. Raven ran off in tears, yet none of us felt any sympathy for her. Those tears were wasted anyway. Raven went quiet again for some time. It just seems like the correspondence with home has become more frequent. I can't shake this ominous feeling. When the maid told me Dante had been taken by Raven, my first instinct was disbelief, but she went on to say the young maid who witnessed it saw Dante flushed and being escorted away by Raven's attendants. This is the Imperial Palace. The Phoenix Emperor himself was drugged and abducted from his own harem. Clenching my fists, I led my men straight to Raven's palace to investigate. Before even crossing the threshold, the lewd sounds of carnal pleasure reached my ears. The battle inside was clearly raging. My hand suddenly lost the strength to push the door open. A pang of inexplicable hurt twisted in my chest, though I knew it was only natural for Dante, as an emperor, to have other women. Besides, in my original plan, getting Raven pregnant was always meant to be part of her punishment. My fists clenched tight, then fell slack in defeat. 1,000 thoughts swirled in my heart before I finally told the maids behind me, "Let's go." Returning to my chambers, the sight of the phoenix tree Dante planted for me days ago twisted my heart with fresh sorrow. The palace maids, sensing my dark mood, kept their voices hushed. The voice calling my name inside the hall became startlingly clear. Recognizing the familiar voice, I froze momentarily before stumbling forward in haste. There on the bed lay Dante, the very man Raven had taken away. His face was flushed, garments half removed, unmistakable signs of the drug taking effect. I didn't have time to ask what had happened. Administering the antidote was the priority now. I lowered the bed curtains and pressed myself against Dante. Dante initially tried to push me away, but after recognizing my face, he pulled me into an almost suffocating embrace on the bed. "Amethyst, Amethyst." He murmured my name between kisses that rained down on my lips and body. Raven really went for the nuclear option. I barely slept all night, my body aching like I'd been run over by a truck. Couldn't even get out of bed the next day. When Dante came to and saw me in such a state, his heart ached for me, adding another black mark against Raven in his mind. Seeing him about to settle scores, I quickly grabbed his sleeve. "You still haven't told me what exactly happened yesterday." Only then did Dante rein in his anger and patiently explain everything to me. Raven had someone spike my incense with aphrodisiacs. By the time I realized, it was already taking effect. Her guards had nerves of steel. They practically carried me straight to her chambers, but Raven seemed to need medication herself and wasn't in the room. That's when I signaled my shadow guards to extract me. I nodded, suspecting Raven was preparing some dark ritual at that moment, but that voice, I clearly heard it when I was at Raven's palace. Dante sneered. Those were agents planted by the shadow guard. When I learned Raven was completely unaware his man had been replaced, a new plan for revenge suddenly occurred to me. "Brother Dante, could we hold off on confronting Raven for now?" Chapter 8. At the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet a month later, Raven suddenly retched at the sight of fish before her. Though the Empress Dowager disliked her, she couldn't simply ignore the situation. She summoned the court physician to examine Raven's condition. After taking the pulse, the witch doctor repeatedly congratulated them. "Congratulations, Your Majesty." "Congratulations, Empress Dowager. This is the pulse of pregnancy." The Empress Dowager was overjoyed. This might be Dante's first child. "Love me, love my dog." She even found Raven more agreeable now and bestowed many treasures upon her. Raven wore a smug expression, cradling her still flat belly, unable to suppress a grin. "Well, I never expected that after just one night with His Majesty, I'd beat my sister to pregnancy. Is my sister perhaps unwell? Great shaman, would you kindly examine her pulse as well?" She feigned sisterly concern, though her eyes brimmed with mockery. She believed her past life use of forbidden arts left her barren, thus allowing me to seize the Phoenix Queen's throne. Convinced I'd employed the same dark arts, she resolved to expose my supposed infertility, just as she'd suffered in her previous life. Thus, she would rightfully ascend as the Phoenix Queen. Alas, her scheme was doomed from the start. I smiled at her and calmly extended my wrist to the witch doctor. The witch doctor felt my pulse, gasped in surprise with an "ow," then finally reported his findings. "Congratulations, Your Majesty. Congratulations, Empress Dowager. Her Highness is also with child." Dante couldn't contain himself any longer. He rushed over, grabbed my hand, and beamed like a fool. "Amethyst, did you hear that? We're going to have a baby. I'm going to be a father." His joyful exclamation was cut short by another voice. "Impossible. This can't be." All eyes turned toward Raven. The Empress Dowager, who had been praising her moments ago, now frowned. "Oh, then enlighten us. Why would your sister's pregnancy be impossible?" Raven was dumbstruck. How dare she reveal the secret art? That's the ancestral secret technique of the White Phoenix clan. Watching her stammer pointlessly for ages, the Empress Dowager snorted in contempt. "Still, Out of consideration for the child in her womb, they allowed her to retire to her chambers to rest. On the same day, both Phoenix consorts were found to be with child, bringing joy not only to the Empress Dowager but to the entire Phoenix clan. The Empress Dowager glanced at Dante, as if struck by a sudden thought, and said, "Now that both your consorts are with child and unable to attend to you, perhaps." Dante's expression darkened. "Mother Empress, I've made it clear before that I shall take no more concubines in the future. Surely you remember this. Today is your Majesty's birthday banquet. Let us not trouble ourselves with such matters." The Empress Dowager's expression darkened, but blood being thicker than water, her displeasure couldn't last. After a few days of coldness, she let the matter drop. Though Raven and I were at similar stages of pregnancy, our treatment differed markedly. With Dante's favor, all the finest treasures from the palace always found their way to me first. Raven's fantasy of ruling the harem through her child once again evaporated into thin air. Finally reaching her limit, she wrote to our father, summoning both him and my dear stepmother to the palace. Upon entering the palace, father bypassed Raven's quarters and came straight to me instead. Chapter 9. His expression was unreadable. As if he never expected me to go this far. "You didn't use forbidden arts." Unlike the spoiled Raven, he actually had some brains. Quickly piecing together why I was pregnant, seated at the head of the table, I shot him a glance. "True, I didn't use forbidden arts. What of it?" Father stared at my slightly rounded belly with venom in his eyes. "You cannot keep this child." "On what grounds? How dare you defy me as your father? That child of yours shouldn't exist." With a furious roar, father channeled his spiritual energy directly toward my abdomen. His reasoning was tragically naive. If he could just force me to lose this child, Dante might rage. But with Raven's child still alive, surely even Dante wouldn't dare raise a hand against his father-in-law. Little did he know, Dante had already stationed 8 shadow guards to protect me, fearing I might come to harm. My father's attack was swiftly intercepted by them. Not only that, but Dante himself came rushing to the scene, daring to harm the Imperial heir, White Phoenix clan leader. "You've got some nerve." The Imperial aura erupted, crushing the father's earlier arrogance as he was pinned mercilessly to the ground. He coughed up a mouthful of blood, his face contorted with terror. "Why, your Majesty, I'm Raven Amethyst's father. Are you going to kill me?" Dante let out a derisive chuckle. "Funny, I thought you were only Raven's father." "Raven's father means absolutely nothing to me." The crude words drove the point home for my father. He turned to me sitting unharmed nearby. "Amethyst. My darling, I was wrong. I lost my damn mind for a moment." Gagging noise, I gagged. "Sorry, that was disgusting." Staring at the spineless man before me, I abruptly changed tack. "I recall there was a dowry list when my mother married you. Did you hide it?" My father hastily produced the dowry list before collapsing to his knees with a thud. "Amethyst, I truly know I was wrong. Look, here's the dowry list. I'm giving it to you now. Won't you forgive your old man?" I ignored him. In the next instant, the shadow guard struck. Father crumpled to the ground like a rag doll. Even in death, his eyes held that same look of stunned disbelief. When the father's corpse was delivered to Raven Palace, the legal wife fainted from shock, and Raven immediately started bleeding. It took tremendous effort to save the pregnancy. Neither of them even knew the cause of his death, but with the clan leader dying so mysteriously, what could his wife and daughter possibly do? The 2 women cowered in their chambers for 3 full months, too terrified to step outside. They only reappeared before the public when the coast seemed clear, with Raven's belly growing heavier each day and the shaman confirming a multiple pregnancy. Though more cautious than before, the multiple pregnancy still gave Raven a renewed sense of confidence. "Running into me by chance," she hissed venomously. "Just wait till I deliver in a few months. Amethyst, your days are numbered, you vile schemer. When I birth these golden phoenix heirs and become Queen Phoenix, you'll pay with your life for what you did to father." I chuckled, adopting the tone of a classic villain from storybooks. "A golden phoenix chick, with your mongrel bloodline. Don't make me laugh." My taunts made Raven's face alternate between pale and flushed before she finally stormed off with a disdainful snort, though uncertain at heart. She found some comfort remembering how I'd successfully bred a golden phoenix in our past life using secret arts. Chapter 10. And so the day of delivery arrived. Raven was ruthless. To spite me, she took labor-inducing drugs the moment she heard I was in labor and rushed into the delivery room. About an hour later, her child was born, but the midwife's expression turned grim. Good heavens, what in the world has she given birth to? The midwife stared in dismay at the handful of pitch-black bundles in her hands. How could the noble phoenix bloodline possibly produce such a brood of Raven spawn? Mistaking the midwife's shock for awe, Raven struggled upright with the regal bearing of a phoenix queen, convinced she'd borne royal offspring. "Worthless wench, why are you standing there gaping? Hurry up and show my golden phoenix to his majesty." The midwife glanced down at the crow, jet black without a single stray feather, and sneered. "Golden phoenix, you must be out of your mind. God knows what filthy creature you bedded to spawn this crow. I'll report this to His Majesty at once. Your days are numbered. Raven's eyes widened in shock. What? How could it not be the golden phoenix? How could it be a crow? Even she wasn't so dim as to believe two phoenixes could give birth to a crow. Her eyes darted around as she stumbled out of the delivery room, though bleeding profusely and nearly fainting multiple times along the way. Raven stubbornly pushed through until she reached my chamber. Dante and the Queen Mother, waiting outside, were startled by her sudden blood-soaked, disheveled intrusion. What are you doing here? Raven's eyes flashed with jealousy as she spotted Dante and the Empress Dowager present, then pointed furiously toward my birthing chamber. That venomous wretch Amethyst had someone switch my child. She bribed the midwife to claim I gave birth to a raven. The declaration sent shockwaves through the assembled crowd. The Empress Dowager frowned disapprovingly, her gaze fixed on the birthing chamber. If this is true, Amethyst is truly wicked beyond measure. Guards, enter the birthing chamber and seize Amethyst at once. Dante remained unconvinced, blocking the entrance to my birthing chamber. Your Majesty, how can we condemn Amethyst solely based on Raven's testimony? Dante, have you lost your mind? Look at Raven's wretched state. Do you really think she'd go this far just to frame someone? Dante remained obstinate. Only when the midwife finally arrived with a murder of crows did he turn to the witch doctor standing nearby. Let the witch doctor examine the bloodline, and we'll know whether Raven's telling the truth. As the witch doctor approached step by step, Raven's heart skipped a beat with a sudden ominous premonition. Chapter 11. Sure enough, after a brief examination by the witch doctor, a crimson thread materialized between her and those small black ravens. No, this can't be. That witch doctor must have been bribed too, Raven shrieked, desperately trying to sever the blood-red thread but utterly failing. When she looked up again, the gazes of everyone present had completely transformed, their eyes brimmed with revulsion, contempt, and utter loathing. Raven truly couldn't comprehend how things had come to this. She was taken back into the palace, this time completely confined with her mother. After struggling for 4 hours, I finally gave birth to Dante's and my child, a golden phoenix, radiant with light from head to tail. In my past life I bore 9, but in this one only a single child, but this one alone would suffice. Dante immediately proclaimed me as queen, with neither the Dowager Empress nor the courtiers raising any objections. They marveled only at the auspicious omen accompanying the golden phoenix's descent. The coronation ceremony was held only after my 2-month convalescence. Before the grand ceremony began, I deliberately carried my child to visit Raven's palace. Only she and a few palace maids remained in her chambers now. Her mother, my legal mother, could no longer endure this hopeless existence in the palace and had dashed her head against the pillars. It wasn't that Raven didn't wish to follow her in death, but those maids were people I'd specially assigned. They were tasked with keeping watch over Raven, preventing her from taking her own life. Death was hardly a harsh punishment in her eyes. Only a fate worse than death could bring true suffering. Seeing me clad in the same court robes as my past life and cradling the equally regal golden phoenix infant, Raven, who had been lying despondently on the divan, struggled to rise with a furious roar. How is this fair? The world is unjust, utterly unjust. Remembering her deceased parents, 2 streaks of bloody tears streamed from her eyes, a sight too tragic to behold, yet I felt nothing but grim satisfaction. Unjust, I'd say it's perfectly just. Your parents killed my mother, and in our past life, you ruined me. This is exactly what you deserve. Raven stared at me in horror. You're reborn too. Then why did you just watch me steal the fertility ritual? Weren't you afraid I'd actually conceive the Emperor's child? She'd grown noticeably thinner and frailer, yet remained oblivious to the ritual's backlash. I merely gazed at her with pity. Didn't Father warn you about the ritual's potential consequences? What's the point of carrying the child? Using that forbidden technique to deliver it will cost you your life. Father might have been working on a solution. Too bad I slit his throat first. You'll spend what's left of your miserable life waiting to die in despair. With those final words, I turned and walked away. Piercing wails echoed through the hall, yet I never turned to look. Outside the door, my beloved stood with a gentle smile, reaching out to me. Amethyst, let's go. I placed my hand in his palm and nodded firmly. Story 2. In my previous life, because of half a piece of bread, I was severely tortured by my stepmother and stepsister and then thrown into a horde of zombies. After being reborn, I purchased a large quantity of supplies in the name of my stepmother and had them delivered to our home. I publicized this everywhere, making it known to the whole city. After arranging everything, I left with satisfaction. After the zombie outbreak, a large number of people rushed into the house to snatch food. My stepsister and stepmother let out hysterical screams, and I was enjoying a hot pot and humming a song. I felt extremely pleased. 1. In my previous life, On the 7th day after the zombie outbreak, I divided a piece of bread in my hand into 2 halves and offered the larger half to my stepsister. She didn't take it. "Mom, I don't want half, I want it all," she said, tugging at my stepmother's clothes and sobbing as she looked at the other half of the bread in my hand. My stepmother stood up and slapped me across the face. "What are you eating? Give it all to your sister." She directly snatched the bread from my hand. I had no strength to resist. With my weak body and the shortage of supplies in the apocalypse, my illness got worse day by day. Looking at my sickly appearance, my stepmother said in disgust, "You little slut, if it weren't for your father's favoritism, leaving the inheritance to be distributed according to your wishes after you turned 18, I would have poisoned you to death long ago, you know. When I watched you drinking the poison, I personally brewed for you every day and sweetly saying thank you, auntie, to me. I really thought you were as stupid as my dead elder sister. She also drank the poison I fed her and said thank you, sister. She was such a fool that she never discovered the truth until she died. And your father, he called out your mother's name on his deathbed. All these years, what have I been? Lucy is also his daughter. How could he be so heartless to her? It's all your fault, you slut." After saying that, she punched and kicked me like a madwoman. At that time, my 8-year-old stepsister also came over to dig at my eyes, pull my hair hard, and shouted at me resentfully, "Bad sister, you stole my dad." After they finished venting their anger, they still didn't let me go. They directly threw me from the 6th floor into the horde of zombies, and I was instantly torn to pieces. In the apocalypse, I didn't even have the chance to become a zombie. However, when I opened my eyes again, I had actually been reborn, too. I picked up my phone and checked the date. There were still 7 days until the zombie virus outbreak and 6 days until my 18th birthday. This time, reborn, I swear to avenge my mother and myself. I only knew that my father had left me a large sum of money, but I had never known how much it was. I made a phone call to Daniel. "Daniel, please go and check for me how much money my father left me before he passed away." "Okay, miss." Daniel was the butler of our family and a close friend of my father's. He was introverted and didn't like to talk. In my previous life, I was always afraid of him. After the zombie virus outbreak, Daniel was bitten by a zombie while trying to find food for us. After bringing back a piece of bread, he left in order not to hold us back. In this life, I will definitely not let him get hurt again. Soon, Daniel called back, "Miss, currently, all of the master's assets before his death are in your name, totaling about more than 10 billion yuan, and this doesn't include the fixed assets. So much. It should be enough." I calculated in my heart. "I see, Daniel, I want you to go to the White Oak Manor. Only take the people you can trust. I have something for you to handle personally, and don't let anyone find out." "Okay, miss." Next, I detailedly told Daniel to prepare all the supplies needed for survival in the apocalypse within 3 days. Purchasing them globally, and the more the better. I also asked him to install attack and defense equipment on the basis of the original building of the White Oak Manor, completely transforming the manor into a safe fortress in the apocalypse. The White Oak Manor was a manor built by my father for my grandmother to spend her remaining years. It had a beautiful environment and was sparsely populated at that time, in order to protect the privacy of our family. Few people knew the specific location of this manor, and even my stepmother didn't know. Daniel didn't ask me why I was doing this, and I couldn't explain it clearly on the phone. Anyway, he would surely understand later. After arranging things with Daniel, I finally let out a sigh of relief. Next, it was time for me to deal with the situation here. 3, dong dong dong. There came a knock on the door. "Clara, I'm coming in," my stepmother said as she pushed the door open and walked in with a bowl of medicine. "Are you feeling any better today? Who were you talking to on the phone just now?" While gently touching my forehead, she handed me the medicine. In my previous life, I was won over by her tenderness and meticulous care in this way. My mother passed away when I was 5 years old, and she often came to accompany me in the name of my aunt. Although my father didn't want to remarry, he couldn't resist my sweet words and coquetry in his ear. When I was 10 years old, my aunt married my father as my stepmother as she had wished. Even after she had her own child, my stepsister Lucy, she didn't reduce her care and love for me at all. That's why I trusted her so much. "It was a sales call," I said feebly, trying my best to make myself look seriously ill and as if I wouldn't live for a few more days. "Clara, be good. Come on, take the medicine, and you'll get better soon. Your 18th birthday is coming up in a few days. I will definitely help you fulfill any wish you have." I gasped for breath several times, took the medicine, and then put it down, looking very expectant of my birthday. I want to give all of my father's remaining property to Lucy." I deliberately coughed a few times and took a few deep breaths. My voice was soft and hoarse, but it was just loud enough for her to hear clearly. "What?" You want to give all the property your father left you to your sister? She suddenly grabbed my wrist and asked excitedly and loudly. I nodded weakly, and then there were tears in my eyes. Auntie, you're hurting me. She then realized her overreaction and also thought she had shown too much excitement. Clara, why do you suddenly want to give all the property to your sister? She's still young. As long as you're obedient and take your medicine, you'll surely get better soon. Let's talk about this later, okay? Come on, take the medicine first, that's what she said, but her hand holding the medicine bowl was shaking so much that a few drops of medicine spilled onto the bedding, and she didn't notice her gaffe at all. I shook my head stubbornly. No, if Auntie doesn't agree to Clara's wish today, I won't take the medicine. When I acted coquettishly and made a fuss, she didn't know what to do for a moment. It all felt too unreal. I deliberately said again, Auntie, I've been feeling very heavy and sleepy recently. I'm afraid this illness won't get better. You and sister have always been the best to me on weekdays. It's only natural for me to leave the property to you, and even if I'm lucky enough to get better, I believe you won't abandon me, right? Seeing my sincere words, she didn't pretend to decline anymore. Okay, Auntie promises you. Then she gently wiped away the few tears that I had finally managed to squeeze out from the corners of my eyes. Clara, your medicine has gone cold. Auntie will go and get you a new bowl. She covered me with the quilt and turned to leave. I suddenly grabbed her clothes and started crying sadly. Auntie, there's one more thing I want you to promise me. Okay, she had to stop and continue to soothe me because of my tag. What's wrong? Clara, don't cry. Tell Auntie what grievance you've suffered, she said eagerly and with great concern. If it weren't for the physical pain in my previous life and the images of being torn and eaten by zombies deeply engraved in my mind, making me still feel scared even now, I would almost have believed that she really cared about me, for I blushed and beat around the bush with my stepmother. After being coy for a while, I said, Auntie, you mustn't laugh at me. She patted my hand. How could I laugh at Clara? I gradually stopped crying and sniffled but still refused to speak. All right, go ahead and tell me. I promise I won't laugh at our Clara. Okay, I thought the timing was almost right and decided to stop while I was ahead. Auntie, I had a nightmare last night. I dreamed that there were zombies everywhere, and we were hungry and cold. Clara is scared. Woo-woo. Could you please help Clara buy some supplies and stockpile them? I'll feel better. And maybe this illness will get better too. I deliberately spoke intermittently. These were things that only children would believe. On ordinary days, she definitely wouldn't agree to me, but today was different. I had just promised to give all my property to her daughter, and she had already been carried away by this sudden surprise. Moreover, what I asked for wasn't too excessive, so she was happy to agree and gain some favor. Sure enough, as I expected, she agreed very readily. I thought it was something serious. Why wouldn't I agree? It's always good to stockpile some food. Send me the things you want to buy later, and I'll ask Harper to buy them. At this moment, she still didn't realize the seriousness of the matter. She would be stunned when Harper finished stockpiling the supplies. When I saw that she agreed, I nodded obediently and didn't forget to remind her, Auntie, don't forget to prepare the procedures for inheriting the property early. I really want to give all my property to my sister on my 18th birthday. She touched my head with satisfaction, agreed repeatedly, and then left contentedly. The act was finally over. Leaning against the pillow, I felt physically and mentally exhausted. Not everything just now was fake. I was weak, and it was true that I was ill. In fact, since I started eating solids, I had learned to take medicine, especially after my mother passed away. I became even weaker. My stepmother showed concern for me, but my illness never got better. Now I know that she had been feeding me poison every day. No wonder I couldn't get better. I also went to school intermittently. I didn't have many friends. Since my father passed away when I was 12 years old, my stepmother no longer let me go to school, saying that I could go when I recovered from my illness, and I had to agree. So, after my stepsister was born, I liked her very much. She was cute and endearing. In fact, I loved her more than anyone else in the family. In my previous life, I had planned to give her most of the property my father left me after she became an adult because I hoped more than anyone else that she would live a happy life. But this time, it's different. A silver bell-like voice came from outside the door, interrupting my thoughts. Sister, look what I've brought you. Lucy had already run to my bedside with a bouquet of flowers in her hands. Sister, smell it. Does it smell good? I picked it for you specially outside. I touched her little head. I couldn't connect this innocent and lovely little girl with the resentful little girl in my previous life at all. It smells good. I took the flowers from her hand and smelled them. Sister, if you like it, Lucy will pick some for you every day. Okay. The more obediently she tried to please me, the more chilled I felt down my spine. She pestered me for a while before leaving reluctantly. I picked up my phone and made another call. Hello, Daniel. I have one more thing for you to do. It's something more important than stockpiling supplies. No matter what the cost, you must complete it. 5. In the next 2 days, I listed all the supplies needed for the apocalypse into a list and sent it to my stepmother. The content of the list is as follows. Food category: 1,000 bags of rice, 1,000 bags of flour, 1,000 barrels of cooking oil, 1,000 boxes of various dried meats, 500 gene of dried vegetables, 300 bags each of Chinese cabbage, cost lettuce, and spinach seeds. Daily necessities category: 1,000 rolls of toilet paper, 100 tubes of toothpaste, 100 toothbrushes, 500 bags of washing powder, 100 boxes of sanitary napkins, 100 quilts, 100 sets of summer clothes, 100 sets of waterproof charge jackets, 200 sets each of underwear, socks, and close-fitting clothes. Tools category: 100 gas masks, 100 sets of protective clothing, 50 pairs of binoculars, 50 pairs of night vision goggles, 50 drones, 50 boxes of candles, backup batteries and solar charging panels, generators, radios. Medicine category: 500 boxes of cold medicine, 500 boxes of painkillers and anti-inflammatory drugs, a certain amount of gauze, 1,000 bandages, 500 bottles of disinfectant, 200 boxes of hemostatic drugs, 200 vials of antibiotics, 200 vials of anti-infective drugs, 100 boxes of medical alcohol, 10 sets of medical emergency surgical equipment. Entertainment category: purchase all classic books, download 80% of the movies and TV series on the market, upgrade all the current fitness equipment at home, DIY handicraft house. I triple-checked these supplies and deliberately didn't include any supplies related to water. I guess she didn't look at it carefully either. For someone with property worth over 10 billion yuan, it's not a big deal to spend 50 million yuan on stockpiling some supplies. And it wasn't even her money. Harper didn't mess around with the task. He quickly started to find people to purchase the supplies. In just 2 or 3 days, he emptied half of the supplies in the urban area, and this matter soon became known to everyone. Moreover, Harper didn't forget to publicize it everywhere. Our lady is really kind to our young lady. I heard that just because the young lady had a nightmare about zombies, she emptied half of the city's supplies and brought them home to stockpile for the young lady. Not to mention, where can you find such a good stepmother? In my opinion, even a biological mother might not be able to do this. This was simply a pleasant surprise for me, saving me the trouble of publicizing the fact that a large amount of supplies were stockpiled at home. Daniel had also almost completed his task. After looking at the photos, I was very satisfied. I reserved a private jet to go abroad and prepared in advance for the next step of my plan. 6. There were still 2 days until the zombie virus outbreak and 1 day until my 18th birthday. I checked the supplies that had been bought. They almost filled the entire villa, and some were still in the yard and hadn't been tidied up yet. Stockpiling these things on ordinary days wouldn't be a big deal, but in the apocalypse, they would become a piece of fat in the eyes of many people. Especially since many people knew that there was only a pair of mother and daughter left here at that time. Wouldn't everyone want to take a share? The supplies I prepared seemed to be for them, but in fact, in the chaotic apocalypse, anyone except them could take them away. The more and richer the supplies were, and the more complete the variety was, the more attractive they would be. On my 18th birthday, I held a global live broadcast in the villa filled with supplies, and soon it topped the first place on various trending search lists. Clara, the eldest daughter of Lingyun Group, has decided to transfer all her assets to her half-sister. It is reported that her sister is currently only 8 years old and may become the youngest billionaire celebrity in history. The chairman of Lingyun Group passed away unexpectedly 6 years ago and left all his assets to his eldest daughter. Now, a huge reversal has occurred. It is reported that the eldest lady of Lingyun Group is weak and sickly. This transfer of property is for her to go abroad to recuperate better. One wave has not subsided, and another wave rises. In the afternoon, another even more explosive piece of news made it to the trending searches. Shocking. The flight that the eldest lady of Lingyun Group was on lost contact at 2:15 p.m. over the Pacific Ocean. Currently, it has been confirmed that the plane crashed, and the cause of the crash is unknown. The accident is still under further investigation. Conspiracy or accident? The eldest lady of Lingyun Group transferred her property in the morning and died in a plane crash in the afternoon. Follow me to reveal the secrets one by one for you. According to relevant sources, the eldest lady of Lingyun Group had an excellent relationship with her stepmother and stepsister. In the live broadcast in the morning, we could see that the villa was piled high with many supplies. which were stockpiled by her stepmother for her because of a doomsday nightmare the eldest lady had before. I really envy her. It's a pity that she died young. Next, my stepmother held a press conference, crying her eyes out at the scene, and shouting that the airline must give an explanation, fully demonstrating the pain of losing a daughter. At 5 p.m., I sat in the living room of the White Oak Manor, scrolling through the trending searches about me on various platforms on my phone. I was in an extremely good mood, and everything was going smoothly. 7. The White Oak Manor has been completely transformed into a safe fortress in the apocalypse, with all kinds of supplies and defensive measures in place. When Daniel arranged to purchase the supplies, he used helicopters to make global purchases, so it wouldn't attract anyone's attention at all. I also incorporated all 12 people working under Daniel into the Doomsday security team and allowed them to secretly bring their families to live in the manor. But they were not allowed to disclose the location of the manor to anyone. Their salaries were 3 times what they used to be, so no one thought too much about it. I also recruited 2 nannies with no family ties to work in the manor, mainly responsible for cooking and doing miscellaneous work in the manor. Currently, there are a total of 28 people in the White Oak Manor. Everyone is performing their respective duties. Some are happy because their families are reunited, and some are happy because they have new jobs. No one expected that the end of the world was about to come. In the apocalypse, it would be absolutely impossible for only me and Daniel to be in the White Oak Manor. Necessary personnel allocation is still very necessary. Moreover, since they are all with their loved ones, they won't back down when a crisis occurs. I believe that once everyone sees the cruel living environment after the end of the world, they will definitely hold on to the White Oak Manor, because this is also their home. Daniel, have you handled the matter I told you on the phone? I asked Daniel while drinking coffee. It's done, miss. The people have been brought to the manor and settled down. You can meet them at any time. But, Daniel looked hesitant halfway through his words, as if he had something difficult to say. But what, Daniel? You can say whatever you want. Daniel took a deep breath before continuing. Miss, the people you were looking for have come, but their demands are really too excessive. Moreover, in order to meet their conditions for coming here to work, we spend a lot of money. I smiled and comforted Daniel. As long as they are here, it doesn't matter how much money is spent. Trust me, it's all worth it. Okay, miss. After hearing my words, the unhappiness on Daniel's face disappeared completely. The White Oak Manor is built against the mountain and has 3 villas, all of which are only about 10 to 20 meters apart. Daniel took me to the leftmost villa, where someone was already waiting for me. Hello, Dr. Elijah. I'm very glad that you could come this time. 8. At 10 a.m. the next day, I instructed Daniel to make sure that no one in the manor was allowed to go out. In my previous life, the zombie virus outbreak probably occurred around 10:30 a.m. In fact, the outbreak of the virus was not without any omen, even a week in advance. Topics such as zombies, doomsday, and virus had already made it to the trending searches. However, since the outbreak started from within the military and medical research bases in various places, the information didn't circulate. In addition, various official media came out to refute the rumors one after another, and the popularity of the topic subsided within a few days. Later, it was not until the large-scale outbreak of the zombie virus that the military and medical systems were largely paralyzed that people half believed that the disaster had begun. However, by then, it was already too late. I was eating the breakfast brought up by Madeline in my room and turned on the surveillance of my previous home. Accidentally, I saw a scene that was too unbearable to look at, and I almost vomited out my breakfast because of the nausea. My stepmother was having intense sexual intercourse with a man in bed. It was really an eyesore. Looking closely, the man seemed somewhat familiar, but I couldn't remember where I had seen him for a moment. Lucy was playing in the children's room. Harper was cleaning the yard and watering the flowers. The mountains of supplies were still in the yard, and 2 people were loading them into a vehicle, seemingly planning to throw them away. Miss, something's wrong. Look. Daniel ran over in a hurry and handed me a phone. The video on the phone showed zombies attacking people. Blood even splattered onto the phone's camera, and the screen of the video went black the next second. There were many such videos. Miss, this. Daniel saw that I was still eating my breakfast leisurely and suddenly seemed to understand something. Miss, you already knew about this. That's why you arranged for me to do these things. I smiled and nodded, embarrassingly, at this moment. The voice of my stepmother in the surveillance was so seductive that it interrupted what I was going to say. Daniel also glanced at the surveillance, and for the first time, I saw this usually serious 45-year-old uncle blush. I coughed a few times and took a sip of the milk on the table. Well, Daniel, listen to my explanation. I was so embarrassed that I could almost dig out a 3-bedroom and 1 living room apartment with my toes. Miss, you don't need to explain. I trust you. And I'm also very glad that you have finally seen the true face of the second madam. I used to think that the second madam had bad intentions, but since you trusted her so much, miss, I didn't want to say too much. I smiled at him. Daniel, don't worry, I know. It's all in the past. You go and soothe the people in the manor and tell everyone not to be afraid. Although we are safe now, we still can't let our guard down. Okay, miss. Don't worry, as long as I'm here, I will definitely protect your safety. After saying that, Daniel quickly went back to the manor. 9. In the surveillance, my stepmother and the others finally finished what they were doing and started scrolling through their phones. They didn't realize that the outside world was already in chaos. Suddenly, a car rushed directly into the yard. The two people who were loading and unloading supplies in the yard quickly went to check the situation. A beautiful woman covered in blood rolled out of the car. One of the guys wearing a hat quickly stepped forward to rescue her, and the other was about to call for help. The next moment, the guy wearing a hat who was rescuing her was hugged around the neck by the female zombie and bitten frantically. His neck was almost bitten off, and it was a mess of blood and flesh. The other guy who was making the call realized that something was wrong and wanted to run, but it was too late. The female zombie suddenly thought that the person in her hand wasn't appealing anymore and directly pounced on him. The poor guy didn't even understand what was going on before he died. Harper was so scared that she kept screaming. She held the watering can for watering the flowers and tried to stop all this, but the consequence was predictable. The first one to notice something was wrong was my stepmother's lover. Only then did I see his face clearly. He turned out to be the doorman of our community. I can only say that my stepmother really isn't picky. No wonder I thought he looked familiar before. After they realized what was going on, my stepmother directly ran to the children's room, picked up my stepsister, and hid in the bedroom. She locked the door and then let out a sigh of relief. After they felt safe, they finally scrolled to the relevant news. At first, they were very scared, but then, looking at the supplies all over the house and the yard, they cheered. The 3 zombies in the yard didn't enter the room and kept walking around in the yard. I sneered secretly. I believe that in the next few days, they definitely won't be able to laugh anymore. I scrolled through my phone. The internet was full of topics about zombies. The photos were bloody and terrifying. Everyone was discussing how to face this disaster. There were also some people who gloated, thinking that everyone would be doomed together and the world would be destroyed. Today is the first day of the zombie outbreak. The government is still persuading everyone not to panic and to stay at home and wait for rescue. In my previous life, I paid close attention to the news all the time. The government began to encourage everyone to save themselves on the second day, and by the third day, the military on the government side was completely finished. Because the power of this zombie virus is extremely powerful. And the places where it first started to infect were the military and hospitals. In just 30 seconds, the virus can control the brain. Coupled with mutations, some zombies will gradually start to strengthen their original advantages. For example, for people who were good at running before, after becoming zombies, their moving speed will become even faster. For people who liked to eat before, after mutating, they will frantically gnaw on living things, and their favorite food is their own kind. On the third day of the zombie virus outbreak, the water supply was cut off. When I was stockpiling supplies, I was very careful to avoid stockpiling water. My stepmother and the others didn't notice this fatal point at all. Every day in the house, besides having sex, they just scrolled through their phones and also showed off their supplies all over the house on various platforms. They were simply courting death in various ways. On the 7th day after the zombie outbreak, my stepmother and the others finally realized that something was wrong. They kept rummaging through things early in the morning. I knew they were looking for water. They deserved it. I leisurely ate the breakfast brought by Madeline and took out my phone to post a message online. 10. Half a month ago, there was a villa on Uerang Mansion Road and Gonyuan Road that almost emptied half of the city's supplies. Does anyone still remember that? Then I also thoughtfully posted a few photos full of supplies in the specific location of the house. Soon, someone replied to the post, "First floor." Yes, I saw it too. At that time, the Yen lady of their Lingyun group also had a live broadcast. Look, all the background of her live broadcast was full of supplies. The replier attached a short video of my live broadcast. Second floor. It's true. I was one of the delivery men who delivered supplies to them at that time. They stockpiled a lot of supplies, and at that time, the whole big villa was almost unable to hold them all. Third floor, they must have known about it in advance, otherwise they wouldn't have stockpiled supplies. Fourth floor, I also scrolled across a video posted by someone in their family these 2 days, showing off the supplies and equipment all over the house. Fifth floor, I'm very close to there. Does anyone want to go and take a look together? If we can't find food soon, We'll be dead sooner or later. More and more people replied to the post. Many people said that they participated in the delivery of supplies at that time. Some people directly revealed that there was only a pair of mother and daughter in the villa. There were also people who were dissatisfied after scrolling across the video of my stepmother showing off. More and more people replied to the post. +1, +2, +3. +99, +999. I smiled knowingly, just waiting to watch the good play. 11. On the 8th day of the zombie outbreak, Daniel led people to patrol nearby early in the morning. This is something he must do every day now. There have been no zombies near the manor yet, which is a great relief. After this period of time, the people in the manor have all accepted the fact of the end of the world. The families of the security team members haven't been idle either. They have reclaimed several pieces of land near the manor and planted vegetables and fruits. It's a thriving scene here. My stepmother and the others didn't find any water. They were just barely surviving on some dry food, and then they welcomed their first batch of guests. At 8:02 in the morning, the group of people who came to rob the supplies appeared in the outdoor surveillance. There were more of them than I expected, more than 10 people, each holding sticks, knives, and guns. The leader was a burly man. People who can survive to the 8th day in the apocalypse are not good people. They directly climbed to the second floor with a rope. It seems that they have already scouted the place before. In less than 5 minutes, all the people entered the balcony on the second floor. There was a sound of glass breaking, and everyone rushed into the room together. When they saw the supplies all over the room, they were instantly excited. It was too late when my stepmother realized that someone had broken in. Her lover picked up an axe and opened the door to check the situation, but was directly shot in the head by the people who rushed in and fell in a pool of blood. When my stepmother saw her lover being shot in the head and just let out a scream, someone immediately rushed up and pressed a gun to her head, not allowing her to make any more noise. The moment my stepsister opened the door and saw the people all over the room and the body lying in a pool of blood, she was directly scared into letting out a terrified scream and collapsed on the ground. I was eating a hot pot and humming a song, watching a large number of people rush into the house to snatch food, listening to my stepsister's terrified screams and my stepmother's hysterical screams. It really made me feel refreshed early in the morning. The scene was quickly controlled by the people led by the burly man. The others searched the room again to make sure there was no one else, and then they began to collect the supplies. At this time, my stepmother also came to her senses. Seeing that everyone had scattered, she didn't care about her stepsister who was still slumped on the ground. She flattered the leader and took off her clothes and leaned towards the burly man. I was stunned by my stepmother's actions. At this time, someone came up to report the supply list. The burly man kicked my stepmother to the corner. After the person reported all the supplies, the leader of the burly man seemed very dissatisfied. He went up and slapped my stepmother twice hard on the face. "Why didn't you prepare any water? You clearly prepared so many supplies. Tell me quickly, where is the water? We didn't prepare these supplies." My stepmother just wanted to explain, but she got another 2 slaps. "Do you think we're fools, who would prepare so many supplies at home and just happen not to prepare any water? Tell me, where is the water?" "There really is no water," my stepmother said with pain and grievance. As a result, my stepmother got another 2 heavy slaps on the face. She finally couldn't bear the pain and let out a shrill scream. The leading burly man kicked her in disgust a few times but found it didn't work. The harder he kicked, the louder his stepmother screamed. Just watching it on the video made me feel the pain. I couldn't help but stuff another meatball into my mouth. It really made my meal more appetizing. It smelled so good. Many zombies outside the house surrounded them after hearing the sound. Soon, there was a dark mass outside. The leading burly man was angry and anxious. He directly walked towards his younger sister, who was already scared silly, picked her up, and threatened his stepmother. "If you make any more noise, I'll throw this little girl outside." The stepmother was so frightened that her face turned pale and she didn't dare to make a sound. Only then did the leading burly man nod in satisfaction and continued to press. "Where is the water? Tell me quickly." I'll tell you. These supplies were prepared by my stepdaughter. There really is no water here, and we've been looking for it too." "Oh, where is your stepdaughter now?" "She's already dead." The burly man frowned and thought that what his stepmother said didn't sound like a lie, but crazy talk. He picked up a stool and threw it at his stepmother. At this time, his younger sister also cried beside them. "These things were really bought by my sister. My mom isn't lying. Woo-woo." Unfortunately, no one paid attention to her. After the leading burly man smashed things around, he and his men packed up and took away the supplies that could be eaten directly. The stepmother was beaten beyond recognition. Her younger sister took care of her while crying, but it seemed that she wouldn't get better in 10 days or half a month. The premise is that, without water, The mother and daughter can still survive for 10 days or half a month, and more zombies surrounded the yard outside. 12. A day after the first group of people left, the second group of people came, and then the third group. Watching his stepmother being beaten until she looked like a pig's head and struggling on the verge of death, he felt no guilt at all, only an infinite sense of satisfaction. People came and went, but they turned a blind eye to the mother and daughter who were on the verge of death. Suddenly, the stepmother shrieked and shouted at the people passing by, "No, she's not dead. All of this was premeditated by her to harm me. I heard her talking on the phone with others before, and she was so abnormal before. She prepared supplies, gave all of her dead father's inheritance to her younger sister, and went abroad to recuperate. She must have known about this disaster long ago. So she prepared so many supplies but just didn't prepare water. That little slut must still be alive. As long as you take me away, I will definitely be able to find her. There must be a lot of water and more supplies there. Please believe what I'm saying." Oh, the stepmother is really smart. She guessed everything right. I really underestimated her. Unfortunately, no one stopped to listen to her nonsense. She could only repeat these words over and over again to the people passing by, begging someone to believe her. 13. On the third day, 11 days had passed since the zombie outbreak. Just as the stepmother was about to take her last breath, a man in black carrying a sword diagonally on his back stopped in front of her. "Wait a minute, why does the sword look so familiar?" I immediately became interested and zoomed in on the camera. "Damn, isn't this the sword of Gojianovu that's lying in the museum?" The man in black gave the stepmother half a bottle of water and asked her to tell the story again. The stepmother seemed to have grabbed a straw to save her life and repeated the story over and over again, adding more details. After listening, the man in black didn't leave immediately. He surveyed the living room on the second floor alertly. Finally, his gaze fixed firmly on the surveillance camera, as if he wanted to see through everything. The stepmother wasn't stupid either. She finally realized what was going on and started to curse hysterically at the surveillance camera. "You slut. It's really you who made me and your sister suffer like this. I will search high and low to find you, skin you alive, and pull out your tendons. I'll make sure you die a miserable death, you slut." The man in black didn't stop the stepmother. After giving a strange smile towards the surveillance camera, he split the surveillance camera in half. I turned on the surveillance camera in the yard again and found that the man in black led them out of the yard and finally disappeared from the surveillance. A chill rose in my heart. Although I still didn't know why the man in black took them away, I couldn't just watch them die miserably. I felt that the anger in my heart hadn't been completely vented yet. Half an hour after the man in black left, another group of people in black broke into the house. It seemed that these people were from the same group as the man in black who had just left. The 5 of them acted in an orderly manner and had no interest in the supplies. It seemed that they were looking for something. Half an hour later, they also left. Time passed day by day. Groups of people came and went in the abandoned villa, but I never saw the stepmother and the others come back. I wasn't worried that they would find this place because the stepmother didn't know this place at all. On the 15th day of the zombie virus outbreak, the city's power system completely collapsed. I could no longer check the surveillance cameras installed at home, and the network also largely collapsed. We lost contact with the outside world. Because the White Oak Manor had sufficient supplies, it wasn't affected by the outside world, and everything was normal. The people in the manor were very united. Everyone knew that in the apocalypse, the survival ability of a team was much stronger than that of a single person living alone. 14. On the 20th day of the zombie outbreak, the White Oak Manor batch of zombies arrived, but they were quickly dealt with by Daniel and his men. "I'm much better now. 80% of the toxins in my body have been expelled, and I can get out of bed and walk around." There were often the ooh and ah screams of zombies coming from the villa on the left. At first, everyone was very scared. When I told them that the world's top medical team was developing an antidote for the zombie virus there, everyone showed expectant expressions. In my previous life, although I didn't know why the zombie outbreak was so rapid, the paralysis of the government agencies alerted me, so I asked Daniel to spare no expense to organize the world's top medical team on the pretext of developing a new project and equip them with the best medical equipment. As soon as the virus broke out, they could obtain the latest first-hand information and immediately start their research. Currently, everything is going smoothly. Dr. Elijah, who is leading the team, said confidently that the antidote will be developed soon. On the 30th day of the zombie virus outbreak, Daniel caught 2 people. When I took a look, it was the stepmother and the man in black. The stepmother was on her last breath, her expression numb, and her spirit on the verge of collapse. The man in black didn't say anything. As soon as the stepmother saw me, she desperately tried to pounce on me, but her hands were tightly tied behind her back. "It was you who killed your younger sister. You're so cruel. I'm going to kill you today, you slut. When I killed your mother back then, I shouldn't have left you. This evil spawn." Slap, slap. 2 loud slaps landed on her face. Blood oozed from the corner of the stepmother's mouth, and 2 teeth fell to the ground. Then there were several hard kicks, and the stepmother immediately didn't dare to be arrogant anymore. "It was Daniel who took action. Madam treated you so well, yet you had the heart to kill her." As he said this, Daniel kicked her 2 more times. I didn't look at the stepmother anymore but turned to the man in black carrying the sword of Gojin of Yu and pointed at the sword behind him, asking, "Is it real?" "Yes," he answered simply. I became even more excited and asked, "Then can I take a look?" He hesitated for a moment but still took the sword off his back and handed it to me. I took the sword and looked at him with great interest. "How did you find this place?" "Just check the whereabouts of this butler, and you'll know everything." He pointed in Daniel's direction. "You could find this place just based on this. Your tracking skills are quite good." I returned the sword in my hand to him. "What brought you here? You don't seem like someone who would meddle in other people's business." I didn't plan to beat around the bush and asked him directly. Just as the man in black was about to speak, Captain Dominic, the security guard, rushed over in a hurry and said, "Something terrible has happened, miss. A large number of abnormal zombies are approaching the periphery of the manor, and it has been found that 3 people in black have broken into the manor. Currently, people are being sent to secretly monitor their every move. Their purpose of invasion is still unclear." The face of the man in black turned pale in an instant. "Damn it, I didn't expect them to find this place so soon." I was just about to ask for an explanation when a huge explosion suddenly came from the villa on the left. I thought to myself, this is bad, but I still pretended to be calm and quickly arranged everything. First, activate the manor's defense mode. Let Daniel command everyone to block and eliminate all the abnormal zombies outside the manor. Second, continue to secretly monitor the 3 people who invaded the manor, figure out their purpose of invasion, find out their invasion route, and strengthen the precautions. Third, lock up the stepmother and the man in black first. After I gave all the instructions, I realized that the man in black had already disappeared, and only the stepmother was lying on the ground, half dead. 15. At this time, 2 more explosions came from the villa on the left. A bad premonition rose in my heart. I asked Captain Dominic, the security guard, to quickly call for more people, and I rushed towards the direction where the explosion sounded. It was all too late. The 3-story villa collapsed rapidly in front of my eyes, making it impossible to get close. I was almost desperate. If these studies were destroyed, the consequences would be unimaginable. In the ruins, 2 blurred figures appeared. The man in black, who was covered in blood, led Dr. Elijah out of the collapsed villa. Before I could be happy, the 3 invading men in black suddenly appeared and slashed at the 2 of them without saying a word. The man in black protected Dr. Elijah behind him and fought desperately. He faced 3 of them alone. After several rounds, he gradually fell into a disadvantage. I was extremely anxious but couldn't do anything to help, seeing that the man in black couldn't hold on anymore after being stabbed twice. And when one of the men in black's hand was about to touch Dr. Elijah's shoulder, a sudden scream came. The man in black's neck was instantly bitten off by a zombie. At this time, several more zombies rushed out of the ruins, and the scene was in chaos. I seized the opportunity to rush up and support Dr. Elijah. The man in black fought desperately against the zombies and the men in black to cover my retreat. Fortunately, Captain Dominic, the security guard, arrived in time with his men, and the situation was brought under control. The zombies were quickly cleared away. 2 of the 3 invading men were dead, and 1 was seriously injured. It seemed that he wouldn't be able to speak for a short time. The man in black who covered us lost too much blood and fell into a coma. Dr. Elijah was just overly frightened and wasn't seriously injured. First aid was immediately given to the man in black. The other survivors of the medical team were also slowly rescued by the security team. Currently, the losses caused still couldn't be estimated. 16. The cause of the villa explosion was quickly figured out. It was done by the invading men in black. The number of invaders wasn't 3 but 5. It seemed that they had planned it in advance. I remembered that these 5 people were from the same group as those who searched for things at home. What was their purpose exactly? Why did they blow up the medical villa at all costs? And who was the man in black who brought the stepmother here? He seemed to know the key to the matter. I must figure out the reason behind all this. It seemed that the White Oak Manor was no longer safe now. In the temporary medical room, Dr. Elijah said that this experiment was the most crucial step in studying this virus. They were just 1 step away from success, but now everything was gone. This explosion dealt a severe blow to the entire medical team. Only 5 out of the 15 staff members survived in the end. Dr. Elijah said that as long as he was still alive, he would never admit defeat. I asked people to fully cooperate with Dr. Elijah to rescue the medical materials, reorganize the medical team, and also asked people to strengthen the defense of the White Oak Manor. This sudden incident was just a wake-up call for us. In the apocalypse, there is no absolutely safe place. Daniel successfully repelled the abnormal zombies outside. Captain Dominic, the security guard, led people to strengthen the defense. Everyone worked together, which made me feel much more at ease. Daniel told me that the man in black had woken up and wanted to see Dr. Elijah and me. 17. When the man in black saw me, he said, "My name is Dylan. After the virus outbreak, I've been looking for you." I was taken aback and didn't understand why he was looking for me. I didn't know him at all. Seeing my confused expression, he coughed dryly and explained, "To be precise, I was looking for Dr. Elijah. I firmly believe that only he can save this disaster, but I found that Dr. Elijah was secretly taken away 3 days before the virus outbreak. Through some clues, I found your home. What your stepmother said aroused my suspicion. I was sure that you should know something at that time, so I found this place. So that's it. No wonder he risked his life to save Dr. Elijah." "Who are those men in black?" I asked in confusion. "They are the spreaders of the virus and also the ones who made the virus. I discovered their secret, so they have been hunting me down." Next, Dylan detailed the whole story. We then knew that this global disaster was originally a war caused by humans. After the economic crisis broke out on a large scale last century, the contradictions between countries intensified. The United States had already built fortresses in advance, stockpiled supplies, and then spread the virus all over the world. So, the zombie virus outbreak was so rapid, many of the mutations started from military bases and large hospitals, resulting in the large-scale paralysis of government agencies in various countries. Dylan was originally a Special Forces soldier. After discovering that his superiors had been bribed and were spreading the virus to help the evildoers, he decisively stole the information and defected. Before, in the army, he had heard of many of Dr. Elijah's research achievements and deeds in the field of viruses, so the first thing he thought of was to give the important information in his hand to Dr. Elijah. Through various investigations, he found that Dr. Elijah had mysteriously disappeared. He tracked down Daniel through some clues and then found my home. What the stepmother said caught his attention, and finally, he found this place, and his superiors analyzed Dylan's plan and gave the order to kill him. That's why those people were desperate to kill him and Dr. Elijah. After saying that, he took out a memory card and handed it to Dr. Elijah. With a bright smile on his face, "My mission is accomplished, and I have no regrets even if I die." Dr. Elijah was so touched that tears streamed down his face, and he kept saying, "Okay, okay, okay, I will definitely live up to your trust." So, he wiped away his tears and urgently devoted himself to the research of the virus. 18. On the 35th day after the zombie virus outbreak, everything in the White Oak Manor returned to normal. The rebel forces of the special forces that I was worried about never showed up. Dylan speculated that it might be because all the 5 people who were chasing him this time had lost contact with the military. It was also possible that there were serious problems within the military, and they were too occupied with their own affairs to care about him. I prayed that it would be the second situation. My stepmother was locked up by me. She had become half crazy, half stupid, and had a split personality. I went to see her once, and she cried, laughed, and cursed at me. On one hand, she repented to me, saying that she was sorry for me and my mother. On the other hand, she cried and cursed me and my father, saying that I had killed my younger sister. When she was occasionally sober, she would refuse to eat. Now, living was 100 or even 1,000 times more painful for her than death. 19. With the first-hand virus information provided by Dylan, Dr. Elijah's research progressed smoothly, and the first-generation antidote was quickly developed and used in the experiments. 60 days after the zombie outbreak, no one visited the White Oak Manor, and there wasn't even a single zombie. On this day, the medical team led by Dr. Elijah finally developed the antidote. Later, this day was also named Dawn Day by people. In the apocalypse, I didn't even have the chance to become a zombie. The antidote was delivered to the hands of the survivors batch by batch. But I always kept the specific location of the White Oak Manor confidential and didn't let more people discover this place. In the apocalypse, one must always be on guard against others. 100 days after the zombie outbreak, the government took the initiative to contact Dylan. This was a mutually beneficial cooperation, although the country suffered heavy losses in this disaster. The government didn't give up resistance. For the sake of the country and the people, they were still persevering. The antidote for the zombie virus was quickly put into widespread use in various places, and everything was developing in a good direction. 180 days after the zombie virus outbreak, the network was largely restored, the zombies in the city were basically cleared away, and some bold people would do live broadcasts on the street. Words like zombies, virus, and death seemed to have become a thing of the past. People freely enjoyed the freedom of rebirth after the disaster. As more and more people stepped out of their safe fortresses, the world regained its former liveliness. After the carnival, some people chose to commit suicide, while others chose a new life. The government called on people to actively accept psychological intervention after the disaster, and encouraged everyone to unite and strive to live. As long as one is alive, there is hope. 236 days after the zombie outbreak, it seemed as if a whole century had passed. People finally welcomed the first New Year after the disaster. When the New Year's bell rang, the family members in the White Oak Manor exchanged gifts with each other and greeted each other with Happy New Year. It was a warm and peaceful scene. Daniel gave me a Barbie doll, and Madeline sewed a new set of clothes for me with her own hands. My room was filled with gifts and blessings from everyone. In this life, I am lucky and happy. My phone rang. Dylan asked me to open the window and look outside. Standing by the window, I saw him standing in the yard and smiling at me. Then, a gorgeous firework bloomed in the air. The people in the yard cheered and enjoyed the lively atmosphere to the fullest. At this moment, I only wish that the mountains and rivers will be safe, and the prosperous age will last forever. Story 2. On the first day of the Lunar New Year, as zombies erupted, the butler suddenly mutated. Being the true heiress of a wealthy family, I found myself abandoned by my parents and brother, who chose to save the fake heiress instead. Facing the gaping maw of a zombie, I was not scared. Instead, I smiled eerily. I have been through reincarnation 10 times now, and each time I die, I am reborn. Rather than watching the weak fight bloodily over scraps of food in this apocalyptic world, I prefer to see their expressions of sheer panic. That is the true source of my joy. And in this life, I am determined to end their lives in the most perfect way possible. Upon returning, the first sight that greeted me was my longed-for family. Wesley's parents were dressed in festive colors, and Wesley himself had his hair neatly trimmed, looking radiant. At that moment, all eyes were focused on the red envelope that had fallen from me, their gazes filled with reproach. Wesley frowned. "Isabella, what has Amelia done to you? Mom and Dad gave you a red envelope too. Why did you steal Amelia's? Brother, let it be. If sister wants it, let her have it. I've enjoyed so much luxury and your affection in this family for years. It was meant to be repaid." Amelia spoke defiantly, tugging at Wesley's sleeve, her voice tinged with a pitiful tone. Wesley's mother, knowing Amelia was sensible, felt reassured yet pained. Ever since their biological daughter returned, she felt Amelia had grown more insecure. "Isabella, this is where you are wrong. Amelia is nominally your sister. Yes, it was our oversight when you were born, but we've been trying to make amends. You can't take it out on Amelia." Wesley's father sighed. "Amelia, I'll make it up to you with another red envelope." "Mom, don't persuade her. She's bullied Amelia several times. You know her attitude. Her adoptive mother is a serial killer. She lived with a monster for 15 years. I doubt she's any good." Amelia subtly curled her lips, her provocative gaze at me unseen by the others. The same scene, the same looks. They were indeed adorable. When I first returned, my own brother was hostile towards me, and the entire family seemed unwelcoming. Even the compensation spoken of by our parents was underpinned by their coddling of Amelia, and they never even considered changing my surname. Despite this, Amelia continued to enjoy our parents' favor, unscrupulously scheming to slander me, deliberately embarrassing me. And this so-called red envelope was also intentionally placed in my pocket by her. Wasn't her goal just to drive me away? Of course, I knew. Honestly, I didn't care about their attitudes towards me. My purpose in returning was merely to play a game with them. Unfortunately, who would have known that within a few days, zombies would break out? I wonder if my dear sister, upon seeing a zombie, would show that pale, terrified face again. Controlling the excitement in my eyes, I warmly smiled. "Brother, aren't you indirectly scolding Amelia as well? I might have lived with a murderer for 15 years, but doesn't Amelia have a blood relation to a murderer?" Amelia's face changed slightly, and despite feeling uncomfortable, she had to maintain her understanding demeanor. Because of this, not only would our parents feel pity for her, but Isabella would always be trampled under her feet. "Brother, don't speak that way about our sister. We are a family. We should live harmoniously, not be at odds with each other." Wesley affectionately touched her hair. "Amelia, you're just too kind." I watched the affectionate scene of their family in front of me and couldn't help but smile meaningfully. I remember in previous lives, due to the outbreak of the zombie virus, they dared not venture out until the food at home was completely exhausted, while others had to fend for themselves after only a few days without food. I had to share all the food I found outside with them, allowing them to reap the benefits without effort. That's how people are. If they enjoy the fruits of others' labor for too long, they lose the ability to survive independently and become parasites. In a post-apocalyptic world, this is particularly deadly. Initially, I provided enough food for 4 people, then gradually reduced it to the amount for 1. At first, the brother and parents would save the food for the sister. However, driven by hunger, survival instincts magnified their selfishness. They no longer yielded to each other and even fought violently over a small amount of food. Every time, the dear family turned on each other like wild beasts driven mad. Thinking of this, my gaze fell on the butler standing not far away against the wall. Sure enough, there was a deep bite mark on his hand, and his face was pale and weak, as if he was about to collapse. Without a second's delay, he collapsed silently to the ground. I watched as he fell even a few minutes earlier than I had anticipated. The servants hurried over to check on him, and both Wesley's father and mother looked visibly nervous. Although Aaron was just a butler, he had worked for Wesley's family for many years, always diligent and hardworking. In these years, competitors had been eyeing the Sue family greedily. They couldn't afford an incident now. Amelia had hoped to seize this rare opportunity to gain favor, but before she could approach, the butler moved. Suddenly, the previously motionless butler stood up, his face visibly stiffening at a rapid pace, his eyes bulging abnormally with bloodshot veins, his expression ferocious, staggering like a zombie straight out of a movie. Ah! Amelia screamed in terror, and the servants fled in fear, some so weak-kneed they were caught by the zombie and bitten relentlessly. Blood splattered everywhere. The sounds of tearing flesh and agonized screams created a terrifying atmosphere. Wesley's father and mother were too scared to speak. Wesley, trying to appear calm, said, "Mom, Dad, Amelia, let's go to the basement to hide." I quietly enjoyed the delightful expressions on their faces, my heart pounding with excitement amidst the happiness. Indeed, this thrill was unlike any felt from killing. Every expression of theirs made my blood boil, as the zombie approached within 2 meters of me. Just like in the previous 9 cycles, they abandoned me again. I saw my parents and brother, not forgetting to grab Amelia's hand as they escaped to the nearest basement on the ground floor, and once again, I was forgotten, watching the zombie's gaping maw. I wasn't frightened. Instead, I smiled eerily. I pulled out a sharp German military dagger I carried with me and cleanly chopped off the zombie's neck. Even those servants who had been bitten and infected were mercilessly stabbed in the neck by me. In one night, except for the servants who escaped the villa. I had killed all the zombies inside. Bodies lay everywhere, the thick scent of blood permeating every corner of the hall. I expertly disposed of the bodies in the garage, repeatedly wiping the bloodstains on the floor until I was satisfied. After cleaning the dagger and disinfecting it, I cherished it back into its sheath and concealed it in my clothing. At the same time, I knocked on the securely locked door of the basement. "Mom, Dad, are you in there?" Wesley's mother, leaning on Wesley's father, choked up. "Isabella, are you all right?" I squinted with interest. "Mom, don't worry, I'm fine." What a good mother, concerned about me, or worried I might turn into a zombie. Wesley's mother hesitated. "So, what should we do now?" Wesley shook his head repeatedly. "Mom, it's too dangerous outside. We can't open the door. I just watched a live broadcast from the authorities. The zombie virus has broken out globally, and many people have been infected. We can't take that risk. But what about our sister? She's still out there." Amelia, looking anxious, pleaded, "Brother, let's open the door. I don't want our sister to turn into a zombie. Besides, we are family." Wesley frowned upon hearing this. Family, he had never accepted Isabella as his sister. No one could replace Amelia. Isabella, what was she? Just a murderer's daughter. I remained calm, with no turmoil inside, based on my so-called sister's pretentious speech. Her desire to let me in was obviously fake. Among them, she was the one who most wanted me to turn into a zombie. Since they weren't opening the door, there was no need for me to keep waiting here. Once they ran out of food in the basement, they would naturally come out. I decided to leave them hanging for a few days as a small punishment, walking out of the villa and heading towards the city center a few kilometers ahead. The neighborhoods along the road and the streets themselves were in disarray. On what was supposed to be a festive day, the streets were deserted, and the big red lanterns hanging at the entrance of malls were all destroyed by zombies. Cars were overturned everywhere, as others hid in their apartments. They looked strangely at the girl who dared to come out alone. My God, who is this, daring to come out alone? These zombies are so terrifying. This girl must be tired of living. My lord, another one to turn into a zombie. A few zombies noticed me and lunged at me with bared fangs. I quickly stepped back, catching a glimpse of the onlookers in the windows, a slight smile appearing on my lips despite the chaos. I swiftly drew my dagger, and using my agile movements, quickly dispatched the approaching zombies. It seemed the zombies learned that I was not to be trifled with, as they dispersed quite temperamentally, with the surprised gazes of others upon me. I made my way to an underground supermarket. The supermarket was large, stocked with all the essentials, and what's more, everything was free. However, the sight of a bloody cashier's desk and uninfected bodies under the shelves made me cautious. It was clear that there were others here besides myself. I chuckled softly to myself, almost as if I had stumbled upon something amusing. As I continued to explore the supermarket, I saw several women on the ground, stripped of their clothes and covered in blood. I glanced briefly at them, then looked up to see a muscular man not far ahead, and turned to find another burly man behind me. They looked rough and ready, clearly not good people. I pretended not to notice their predatory stares and smiled warmly. That's great, I thought I was the only one. The zombies outside are really frightening. Uncle, did you also escape here? The two men looked puzzled as they exchanged glances filled with meaning. The muscular man was the first to respond. Yes, young lady, with us here, we'll protect you. Really? I exclaimed, surprised yet skeptical. But why aren't the women lying on the ground moving? And why are they undressed? I glanced at their sleazy faces and saw through everything. Was it you? The burly man tried to smooth things over. Of course, it was the zombies. We've already taken care of them, I nodded, my gaze piercing, deliberately lowering my guard to bait them. Seeing me drop my guard, the two men grew excited, inching closer while reassuring me that this place was safe and that they would protect me. Unable to contain himself, the muscular man tackled me when he was less than a meter away. Little darling, let me give you a kiss, this tender girl. I want to be the first to taste. The muscular man paused. Feeling something wet on his stomach, looking down, he saw a cold dagger plunged into his belly, blood gushing out in deep red streams. We looked eye to eye, and I smiled sinisterly. Not so fast, I didn't agree. The burly man exploded in anger. You little bitch, are you asking for death? I swiftly pulled out the dagger, blood splattering onto my clothes, and pushed the body off me. I dodged the burly man's kick. It's not me who's going to die, it's you, damn it. The burly man gritted his teeth, but he was quickly subdued by me. From a young age, my foster mother trained me. Besides going to school, I spent my days practicing so-called killing techniques on animals she captured. After 9 cycles, killing had become almost second nature to me, but I never actually enjoyed killing. What I really liked was seeing the expression of despair and fear on people's faces when they faced death. That was my true pleasure. I didn't kill the burly man right away. Instead, I simply knocked him out and tied him up in the freezer of the storage room. To prevent him from calling for help, I stuffed his mouth with several sanitary pads. After everything was set, I packed a large backpack with plenty of compressed biscuits and mineral water. This should last me about 4 days. After 4 days, there would be 3 days of heavy rain, which would be followed by the first wave of a zombie surge in this post-apocalyptic world. Zombies mainly use smell and sound to locate humans. Water not only dilutes human scent, but the sound of falling rain also confuses them, thereby weakening their abilities. The supermarket wasn't a hidden or safe place, and I didn't want to linger. Taking advantage of the few zombies nearby, I took a path that avoided large gatherings of them. I reached a small motel, killed a few zombies blocking the entrance, and found all the room keys at the counter before I could head upstairs. I heard banging and desperate cries from above. Bang, bang, bang. Open the door. Is anybody there? The voice of a girl breaking down reached my ears, sounding vaguely familiar. I know you're in there. Why won't you open the door? Abigail Grace, I always do what you two ask. You sent me to buy lunch, so I went. You treat me like a sidekick. I've never spoken ill of you. You always leave me behind. Can't you think of me this time? The zombies haven't reached here yet. What are you scared of? Why won't you open the door? As I ascended the stairs, the one banging on the door turned out to be Evelyn, universally regarded as a model student by the school teachers. I heard her family was poor, and upon discovering that Abigail and Grace were well off, she desperately became their lackey, not only leading the bullying of other students with them but also making some extra money on the side, one face for the teachers, another for the peers. She played the two-faced game even better than my seemingly sweet sister. Seeing the keys in my hand, Evelyn looked as if she had seen a savior. Isabella, is it you? Great, you have the keys. Can you open the door for me? I ignored her, just checking the room number on the key, and headed towards the room at the end of the hallway. Isabella, I told you to open the door for me, didn't you hear? When Evelyn realized I was ignoring her, she became furious and tried to snatch the keys from me. I quickly dodged her hand and said with a hint of danger in my tone, "Don't mess with me, Evelyn. I really hate it when people try to take things from me." Only then did she notice the bloodstains on me. Thinking I was bitten, she boldly said, "Isabella, you see, the building is full of zombies. We're classmates." You can't just leave me to die, right? And you, suppressing the discomfort inside, I suddenly changed my tone and forced a kind smile. What good are they? Stick with me instead. I'll take good care of you. Evelyn was clearly scared. You're not turning into a zombie, are you? I'm not hurt, don't worry, this isn't my blood. Hearing faint noises from the stairwell and terrified of the zombies, Evelyn quickly agreed to my plan. Little did she know what awaited her was my full intent to kill. Naughty things are better dealt with sooner rather than later. In this short time, the world has descended into complete chaos. Emergency high-level alerts have been triggered worldwide. Governments have deployed their militaries to suppress the mutated zombies and have announced measures to ensure the continued supply of internet, electricity, and water. They are also airdropping supplies into residential areas nationwide to mitigate the impact of food shortages. It's the 4th day of the zombie outbreak. I've been keeping an eye on official news and noticed many people going out to collect the airdrop supplies, but the nation has vastly underestimated human nature. Even though supplies are dropped by helicopter, people's selfish instincts are blatantly apparent in these end times. Some people, in their greed for supplies, have pushed their companions into hordes of zombies or even killed others after obtaining the supplies to take their share. At night, sounds of collisions and wailing often intermingle. In the evening, I see continuous messages popping up in the family group chat. The person who keeps tagging me is my so-called little sister, Amelia. Amelia, sister, where are you? Dad, Mom, and brother are really worried about you, Amelia. It's all my fault. I should have asked brother to open the door sooner. Please, don't let anything happen to you, Amelia, sister. If you can see this message, please come back soon. We all miss you. Can't they even last 4 days? I quickly skimmed through the messages on my phone, scoffed, and replied, Amelia, don't worry, I'm fine outside. Wesley, Isabella, do you think it's okay? You went out and left Mom and Dad behind. Have you thought about what we should do? Interesting. They were the first to be unkind. Yet they don't allow me to be unjust. Isn't this moral coercion? I sneered and replied, Brother, I went out for your sake. You wouldn't open the door, and I couldn't just stay home wasting your food. Instead of praising me, you blame me. Wesley, nonsense. The day after you left, someone broke into our house. They stole all the food, Dad, Mom, Amelia, and I have been surviving on tap water these past few days. Do you know that? Amelia, brother, stop it. It's not sister's fault. We're just trying to protect ourselves. It's not my sister's fault. In the end, it's all about blaming me. This feeling makes me very uncomfortable. Wesley, if you're not infected and have a shred of conscience, bring back some supplies. Don't let me look down on you. Isabella, without our parents taking you in, you would have been an orphan by now. How righteous he sounds. Wesley's father. Enough. Wesley, hold your tongue. Wesley, Dad, I'm not wrong. Besides, isn't this what you all think? Wesley's mother, Isabella? Your brother speaks harshly. Don't take it to heart. We really had no other choice but to come to you for help. Besides, it's not safe for you to be out there alone. If you come back, the family can look out for each other. As I watched them spout righteousness and morality, I had no intention of continuing to engage with them. These people are more nauseating with their hypocritical faces than frank murderers. By the 9th cycle, I had grown accustomed and tired of dealing with them. My gaze fell on the blood-stained plastic bags in the corner of the room, and a flower bloomed in my heart. It felt like indulging in a juicy watermelon on a scorching summer day, unable to hide the excitement within. This time, I was sure to preserve them in a brand new way. Finally, it was the 5th day. The hustle and bustle seen during the new year had completely vanished by now. The streets were empty except for the wandering zombies. Many households had either run out of supplies or had them stolen by people with ulterior motives. Even if one dared to gather supplies, zombies menacingly lurked beneath the apartment buildings, and not everyone had the strength to bring the supplies back safely. Those with a bit of fighting ability became a delightful feast for the zombies. Occasionally, a gaunt figure walking through the corridor was prepared to die, fearlessly charging into the zombie horde to be gruesomely bitten. A bolt of lightning streaked across the sky, followed by howling winds and rolling dark clouds. Pearl-like raindrops hit the ground, indicating a heavy downpour was imminent. Seizing the moment, I quickly packed my backpack and made my way to the nearest university, avoiding zombies. Before the network was disrupted by the rain, I used memories from previous lives to locate the biochemical factory on my smartphone map. After gradually transporting solutions like formalin and alcohol to the laboratory by car, it was nearly dark. I wiped the sweat from my forehead, locked the laboratory door, and made sure I wouldn't be discovered before daring to return to the hotel in the rain. Along the way, I also grabbed a few boxes of cold and anti-inflammatory medicine from a pharmacy, until I noticed signs of tampering on my hotel room door, which immediately darkened my expression. Indeed, while I was showering, A female voice shattered my suspicions. Brother Sue, we didn't lie to you. And Grace really saw my classmate with a big backpack entering this room, and she also had the keys to all our rooms. Jealousy gleamed in Grace's eyes, having been starving for days. Yeah, we saw it clearly through the peephole. Evelyn is inside too. The bald man known as Brother Sue clicked his tongue. Don't fool me. If there's nothing inside after all this trouble with the lock, I'll start with you too. Just from their conversation, I understood the whole story. Apparently, the noises and moans I could faintly hear while sleeping at night weren't just from men picking locks. It was possible that the guests inside had endured inhuman treatment. No matter how many times I've been reborn, I've seen people cannibalize their own kind out of a survival instinct. And some bandits specifically capture others to supplement their food when supplies run out. It's nothing unusual, so these two are planning to join this bandit in robbing my supplies. Click, click, the sound of the lock being picked continued, and the door began to shake. I quickly dressed, grasped the freshly cleaned dagger, and hid at the corner near the door, ready to strike. Outside the door, Abigail exclaimed in surprise, Brother Sue, the door is loosening up. You're amazing. Brother Sue is indeed Brother Sue. No wonder he's so formidable. Hearing their encouragement, Baldy felt a bit of pride. He ferociously pulled and knocked at the lock, which didn't endure more than a few minutes before it was pried open beyond recognition. It's open, it's open. Just as the door swung open and Baldy was about to step inside, I, hidden by the wall, swiftly stabbed him in the lower back right under Abigail and Grace's watchful eyes. Baldy cried out in pain and swung the steel pipe in his hand towards my head. I quickly sidestepped, pulled out the dagger, and distanced myself from him. Instantly, a long gash appeared on his lower back, pale and ghastly. Slowly, blood began to ooze and then spurt out violently from the wound. With his face contorted in anger, Baldy clutched his bleeding wound. Seeing him like this, I knew he was no longer a threat to me. Abigail and Grace were utterly panicked. Isabella, have you lost your mind? This is assault. Are you discussing law with me? Abigail, I said with a slight smile, pointing the blood-stained tip of my knife at them, I'd like to ask you, after all the trouble you went through to break into my place without my permission and trying to steal my supplies, isn't that illegal? Trying to appear calm, Grace's face had thinned, her skull visibly protruding. Isabella, have you no conscience? You have supplies and refuse to help your classmates, hoarding them all for yourself and then accuse us. Yeah, you helped Evelyn. Why won't you help us? Just so you know. We heard your conversation with Evelyn. Watching them go back and forth, I picked up a bag from the corner and threw it in front of them. Take a look for yourselves. Their eyes lit up, initially thinking it was supplies. They grabbed the bag, but as they tussled over it, the bag tore open and a round human head fell out. Screams. Upon a closer look, a pair of bright, terrified eyes and a grotesque face with a severed neck full of coagulated blood sent chills down the spine. Wasn't this Evelyn? Abigail and Grace were instantly terrified, their eyes filled with fear and disbelief as they looked at me. Abigail's pupils constricted, her body trembling with fear. You actually killed someone. I paused, then laughed. Abigail, you're quite something. What times are we living in now? If I hadn't killed her, I would have been the one dead. You think just because you're young, you can ambush and defeat me? Do you think I'm a vegetarian? Baldy spat out, used to looting and killing. Such minor threats did nothing to faze him. Ignoring his bleeding wound, he kicked the severed head aside, his fighting spirit soaring high. I, far from panicked, assumed a defensive stance. The steel pipe swung towards me, tracing an elegant arc in the air. I thought it would surely hit my temple, but my dagger faintly caught it. Seizing the moment of his shock, I kicked fiercely at his groin. He screamed in agony, staggering backward. This is all on you. I didn't plan to let him off. When Baldy was defenseless, I kicked him to the ground and stomped on his head, stabbing his throat several times with practiced ease. Blood splattered. Disgusted, I frowned, quickly wiping off the blood that had sprayed onto my face, while catching Abigail and Grace's pale expressions out of the corner of my eye. A chilling breeze blew from behind. Abigail and Grace were covered in goosebumps from head to toe. Suddenly, the sky was lit with flashes of lightning and the sound of thunder roared. My face, smeared with blood, resembled a roaring beast, terrifying them to their core. In a panic, they rushed to escape, but in their haste, both tripped over the doorstep. I revealed a warm and clean smile, gripping a dagger as I slowly approached them. You two have 3 choices. 1. Be killed by me. 2. Be bitten to death by zombies. Or 3. Let me choose for you. Decide for yourselves. I'm actually quite nice. Anyway, you're going to die. So why not enter suffering sooner rather than later? Abigail burst into tears. No, don't. I don't want to die yet. Isabella, it was my fault. I shouldn't have targeted you. I was wrong. Isabella, we were forced into this. It was that bald man. He wanted to kill us. We had to tell him you had supplies, or he wouldn't let us go. We didn't do it on purpose. Tears streamed down Grace's face as she knelt on the ground, the fear of death stripping her of her dignity. I'm begging you. Please spare me, please. Both began to bow down to me, their heads knocking against the floor loudly, groveling and showing their ugliest sides. They abandoned all dignity and decency in their desperation to live. At that moment, I couldn't describe my feelings, and I didn't even bother to lift my eyelids. Enough with the nonsense. If you won't choose, I'll choose for you. Realizing that pleading was futile, Abigail stopped bowing, as the blade nearly slit her throat. She glared at me with the most venomous look. Isabella, you will not die a good death. I will haunt you even as a ghost. On the 7th day of the zombie outbreak, after enduring a heavy rain, the nation, limited by human resources, was unable to keep its promises. Apart from water supply, the internet and electrical lines were severely damaged, with the networks paralyzed in varying degrees of disruption. Mobile phones became useless as well. Walking through the rain towards the villa area, I could still spot a few survivors scavenging for food. The continuous downpour had raised the water levels, dispersing many zombies nearby, but by tomorrow evening at 7, when the water recedes, a massive wave of zombies would surge forth. All I could do now was hurry back to the villa. From the second-floor window, Amelia saw me. Sister, you're back. I was surprised, even more so because they had opened the door for me. Noticing their gaunt figures, I managed to hold back my emotions and handed the backpack to Wesley. Brother, I've brought supplies. You can't blame me now, right? That's more like it. Wesley was very satisfied. He took out compressed biscuits from the backpack, biting into them one after another, and didn't forget to share with his father and mother. The three of them devoured the food, a far cry from their usual haughty demeanor. I smiled faintly, noticing Amelia hadn't touched the compressed biscuits, her lips still trembling. Sister, what's wrong? You look so thin. Is something bothering you? My face showed concern as I reached out to touch her, but she dodged away. Amelia bit her lip, smiling sweetly. Sister, thank goodness for you. I smiled lightly. Don't mention it. We're family after all. After they had finished eating, I went to my room to change into clean clothes. Just as I was about to urge them to pack up, Amelia cheerfully brought me a bottle of mineral water. Sister, here you go. You must be tired. Have some water. I slightly deepened the smile at the corner of my mouth, reaching out to take the water bottle she handed me, as her eyes relaxed. I leaned in close to her ear and whispered at a volume only the two of us could hear. Amelia, do you think you could survive without me? Clearly caught off guard by my question, Amelia's expression shifted from shock to composure as she replied, What are you talking about? Sister, how could we possibly die? I believe our family will make it through. I looked at her with a peculiar gaze. That's true, Amelia is so smart. I believe even without me, you would still survive. Then I turned and went downstairs, keeping a wary eye out. I tried twisting the bottle cap and found it hadn't been tampered with. Reassured, I took a sip. After instructing them to pack the essentials, I led them to a high-rise apartment building I had visited in my past 5 lives. Although the top floor required climbing stairs, it effectively reduced the risk of zombie attacks. Zombies are strong but not agile, making stairs a difficult obstacle for them, and if I remember correctly, this so-called apocalypse only lasted a year. During that year, there were 3 waves of zombie outbreaks. Each wave coincided with a natural disaster. The first wave was preceded by a storm that damaged networks and electricity. The second wave came before a tornado that destroyed buildings. The third wave occurred during a severe drought, until the zombies were completely eradicated. But for those living in the apocalypse, it was an extremely difficult and terrifying time. Perhaps it was our lack of environmental care that caused nature to seemingly add fuel to the fire just before each zombie wave. 9. Fortunately, the rain provided some cover. Otherwise, with these troubles, I couldn't ensure they wouldn't get bitten by zombies. When we encountered a zombie at the stairwell, at first they followed my instructions quietly, step by step avoiding the zombies, until we reached the 3rd floor. Amelia saw a zombie with a face smeared with blood and torn skin. Twisted in shape, the zombie was emitting a nauseating odor, and the spine it was frantically chewing on had been pulled from a body. Even Wesley's father and mother were trembling all over. Amelia had never seen such a scene. Just a few steps up to the 3rd floor, she couldn't control her fear and made a noise. Hearing the sound, the zombie instinctively spat out the bone in its mouth and lunged towards Amelia. She was terrified, her fear causing Wesley's parents, who were carefully climbing up the stairs, to suddenly run upwards, completely forgetting about their adopted daughter behind them. Amelia, frightened by the limping zombie behind her, stumbled and fell. With the zombie's blood-stained fangs nearly reaching her calf, she grabbed Wesley and cried out, Brother, save me. Seeing her pulling at his trouser leg, Wesley panicked. Amelia. As Amelia looked down and saw the zombie less than a meter away, She gritted her teeth thinking about pulling Wesley down to block the zombie, but just as she was about to act, I quickly descended with a dagger and swiftly decapitated the zombie. The severed head, with its mouth agape, fell down the stairs, and the zombie's body collapsed. Wesley and Amelia, stunned, inhaled sharply. I narrowed my eyes, scrutinizing their expressions. No more screaming. If you don't want to draw attention or attract more zombies, you'd better behave. Amelia's face was pale, and although displeased, she couldn't argue. On the 8th day of the zombie outbreak, the water left by the storm had completely receded, darkness fell, and hordes of zombies staggered closer, about to crush the land. Those hiding in the lower floors, regardless of age or gender, were broken into by groups of zombies and torn apart. Women, children, men, and a few struggling elderly were overwhelmed by the zombie horde. Some zombies, their faces covered in thick blood, with mouths stretched almost to their jaws, the teeth jutting outward, seemed to chew on slices of meat. Everywhere was filled with the low growls of zombies. I didn't observe for long. The soundproofing here was relatively good. To hear more clearly, I opened the door a crack and faintly heard some knocking sounds from the floor below. Please, someone with a kind heart, open the door. Sob, I brought some food. My husband is dead. Just open the door and I'll do whatever you want. The woman's cries echoed to the skies, but far from eliciting sympathy, they only increased worries that her crying might attract the zombies. I closed the door, but Wesley's mother sighed beside me. Isabella, that woman seems really pitiable, with no one to help her. Maybe we should. Mom, I interrupted her, speaking somberly. I remember telling you all to stay put. If you're so overflowing with sympathy, I really wonder if I should throw you out too, Isabella. Wesley's father and Wesley both chided in unison. Wesley was the first to stand up, pointing at my nose in reproach. Mom is just being kind. Is it necessary for you to be like this? Seeing this, Amelia tugged at his arm, trying to stop him. Brother, my expression unchanged. I said nothing more. After all, speaking with those who might soon be dead was rather exhausting. The zombie horde didn't last long. It was just one night, and then things returned to how they were before, leaving only the homeless zombies behind. A month had passed since the end of the zombie wave, and there were 2 months left until the second wave. During this time, aside from gathering supplies, I had to face my brother and parents' hypocritical faces daily. They enjoyed the benefits I provided while sharing a few sentiments whenever they saw a survivor in distress. Little did they know, they were nothing without me these days. To enhance vigilance, I had specifically arranged for them to take turns on duty morning, noon, and night, yet, my so-called stepsister often approached me voluntarily, offering water and warmth. I didn't refuse her unusual warmth. When it was time for me to rest at night, Amelia came again. Sister, I hope I'm not disturbing your rest. I sat up from the bed, a slight smile on my lips. If I said you were disturbing me, would you leave? Amelia bit her lip, feeling guilty. I'm sorry, sister, I'm just afraid you still blame me. While observing my expression, she softly said, Sister, I was wrong before. I hurt you, took your family, took everything you deserved. Can you forgive me? I was tired of hearing this. I realized that every time she came to offer kindness, it always revolved around the word forgive, even trying to play the victim to gain sympathy. Looking at her, I gave a sinister smile. Amelia, look at us. We're all family, isn't it? What's there to forgive or not forgive? That's wonderful. Amelia became a bit uneasy under my gaze, although she smiled happily on the surface, handing me a bottle of mineral water. Sister, I'm on duty tonight. It's important to hydrate before sleep for better skin. I nodded slightly, taking the mineral water but not drinking it immediately, instead examining the bottle cap. Just as I was about to unscrew the cap to drink, from the corner of my eye, I noticed a hint of relief and excitement dissolve in Amelia's eyes. Suddenly, I remarked, Amelia, has anyone ever told you that mineral water bottles don't have pinholes? Amelia panicked immediately, and my dagger was already at her throat. Don't speak, you know, even if you scream for help, they can't save you. I smiled, a hint of sorrow in my expression. Amelia, you're really not behaving well. Do you really think I didn't know that you were deliberately delivering water these past few days to lower my guard? You know, I don't actually want to kill you yet, but you just had to provoke me. Amelia trembled all over, on the verge of tears. Sister, I was wrong. Did I allow you to speak? My smile deepened slightly, seemingly gentle, yet my hand showed no mercy as I drew a bright red cut across her fair skin with the dagger. Terrified, Amelia clamped her mouth shut as tears uncontrollably streamed down her face. I closed the door, found a rope, and quickly tied her up like a mummy, also tearing off a corner of my own shirt to gag her. Looking at the shallow wound on her neck, I felt a twinge of regret. Everything was about to end, yet you had to disgrace yourself. I haven't decided how to deal with you yet. You'll stay here for now. Amelia's tears fell heavily, filled with fear and despair. the weather finally turned overcast, and apart from us, there were no signs of any other survivors in the entire apartment building. I watched Amelia's tear-streaked sleeping face. She had been crying all night and probably didn't have the energy to fuss anymore. Everything was ready, and I was about to draw a perfect close for them. After leaving the room, I closed the door. Isabella, have you seen Amelia? I haven't seen her all morning, Wesley asked, looking a bit accusatory. I couldn't help but smile. Brother, you forgot. Amelia was on night shift last night. She's asleep now. Wesley frowned but didn't say anything further, just shot me a fierce glare. Unbothered, I approached Wesley's parents and spoke directly. Mom and Dad, it looks like it's going to rain soon. Staying here isn't the safest option. When I was scouting for supplies earlier, I found that Qingyang University was undamaged by zombies. It might serve as a temporary refuge for us. That sounds well and good, but what about Amelia? I met Wesley's displeased gaze with a slight smile. Amelia is too tired. She won't be waking up anytime soon. I can take you first, and after you're settled, I'll come back for Amelia. How does that sound? How do I know you're telling the truth? Wesley was clearly still wary of me and started heading towards the master bedroom. No, I need to see Amelia, watching his back. I thought about how I had saved his life and provided for him all these days. For a girl who wasn't even really his sister, he showed neither gratitude nor fairness. Such an ungrateful wretch. Wesley's father stopped him. Wesley, listen to your sister. Amelia is still sleeping. Don't disturb her. With his father's intervention, Wesley reluctantly stopped his attempt to check on Amelia. The rain came quickly, dodging zombies. I quickly led them to the biological laboratory. This place was like any other university lab, equipped with biosafety cabinets, ultra-clean workstations, a pharmaceutical refrigerator, and the only difference was that it contained boxes of formalin and all other necessary tools I had brought. Wesley's father and mother were educated and knew what these items were for. Isabella, why have you brought us here? Wesley tried to open the door, but I had already locked it. He twisted the knob a few times, to no avail, and became frantic. Isabella, open the door now. My eyes darkened and a faint smile crossed my lips as I picked up a rope from the box and slowly approached them. I forgot to tell you, I am not your biological daughter, your real daughter, Miss Wesley's family. When I refused to follow my mother's orders to kill, she died blocking a knife for me to save my life. Guess what were her last words to me before she died? Wesley and his parents were visibly shocked, their hearts pounding wildly, unsure how to react. She said she had long wanted to die, and the reason behind her suicidal thoughts was your carefully nurtured faux daughter. Wesley's mother reacted as if she had been electrocuted, tears swirling in her eyes. That's impossible. I restrained my smile, finding her tears insincere. You didn't know, did you? Your real daughter, whom you've been searching for all over the world, has been in the same middle school as your faux daughter for 3 years. Amelia has been bullying her. And Amelia's prized grades were all achieved for cheating by your real daughter. I brought them here for no other reason than that this lab also connects to a specimen room. I tied up Wesley's father, Wesley's mother, and Wesley's hands and feet, and placed a bucket next to each of them. Wesley's mother continued to cry, her whole demeanor one of numbness. Wesley's father was no better, glaring at me furiously as if he wanted to devour me alive. You little beast. Our family has treated you well. Why would you do this? Wesley, like a lamb to the slaughter, still tried to defend his faux sister. Isabella, you wild child. Amelia is so good. How could she possibly bully anyone? You must be jealous of her. Making this up, right? I scoffed, walked up to them, and sealed their mouths with duct tape, speaking softly. I am clear about my debts of gratitude and grievances. Rewards are due where gratitude is owed, and evils must be eradicated. Wesley seemed to want to say something else, his eyes cold as blades, filled with disgust and defiance. I smiled slightly. Don't worry, we are nominally family after all, and I'll make sure you receive VIP treatment. Pulling out a dagger, I gently traced Wesley's cheek with the flat of the blade, watching the fear gradually expand in his eyes, my lips curling into a warm, clean smile. Do you know, many people think that slashing wrists doesn't hurt, but they're all wrong. A regular person feels pain for a long time from just a small cut by a knife, let alone a deep one. On the arm, there are veins and arteries. If you cut a vein, the blood will clot in about 10 minutes and won't be fatal, but it's different with an artery. The artery on the wrist is about half a finger deep, cutting it also severs countless nerves. It's not just about draining your blood, it hurts dozens to hundreds of times more than cutting a finger. Watching their faces turn various shades of fear, my gaze became nearly obsessed yet conflicted. The artery is also my least favorite spot. It's under high pressure and tends to spray everywhere. Picking up the bucket next to me, I grabbed Wesley's trembling arm, holding the dagger in one hand and steadying his wrist with the other. Don't move. I've taught myself anatomy and know where the blood vessels are, but if you move and I cut the wrong spot, I won't mind making an extra cut. Wesley shook his head frantically, squirming on the ground like a caterpillar. I noticed that his trousers were wet, with a suspicious liquid flowing beneath him. I frowned in disgust, located the pulsation points, and deftly made a fresh cut on each of his hands. The depth was moderate, not enough to kill him immediately, but sufficient to make him endure both fear and pain. As the blood gushed out, I quickly placed his bound hands into the bucket. Turning to Wesley's parents, I showed no mercy, humming a tune nonstop as I went about my business. Their gazes shifted from initial shock to gradual despair. When they looked at me again, it was as if they were seeing a terrifying monster. By the time I returned, it was already 5 in the afternoon. Considering the time, Amelia hadn't eaten in almost a day. The zombies in the stairwell had mostly been taken care of. During the few hours I was gone, someone indeed had broken in. I walked slowly, hearing noises from the master bedroom as if someone was struggling and kicking the walls. It must be Amelia. I didn't rush in but instead looked around. The apartment was a 3-bedroom with a living room, neither too big nor too small. Spanning 100 to 120 square meters, the only hiding spots were under the bed, behind the closet doors, behind the fridge, and beneath the sofa. Checking each spot one by one was clearly passive. As darkness approached, and with no electricity, the living room would soon be enveloped in darkness. Click, the sound of the door lock turning. Amelia had somehow untied herself, holding a blood-stained kitchen knife in her hand. I guess someone had given it to her. Her hands trembled, the corners of her eyes bloodshot, far from her usual frail demeanor. I watched her clumsy grip on the knife and couldn't help but sneer. "What, you're going to attack me, Isabella? Die," Amelia said with venomous eyes. With no technique, she charged at me, stabbing in my direction. I smiled subtly, my dark eyes mysteriously frightening. As Amelia lunged, I dodged sideways, avoiding her knife, and tripped her, making her fall hard on the ground. I kicked away her knife and stepped on her hand, pressing down repeatedly until I heard the sound of bones cracking. Amelia screamed in pain, writhing on the ground. Amelia, even if you teamed up with that person, so what? This is the apocalypse, survival of the fittest, strength is what counts. Do you think your little schemes will still work? After all, you're just a pampered rich girl, who would really want to help you. I looked down at her from above. And you're afraid of me, aren't you? I've tormented you many times, and it's always been effective. After all, it's not common for a dog to bite its master. Right? She seemed shocked by my words, her face turning pale. "Remember, Lily?" Amelia paused, and I pressed harder, causing her immediate pain and pleas. Stop stepping. I remember. I nodded in satisfaction, squatting down to whisper in her ear. "You bullied her, took everything from her. You should taste her pain." Hearing this, Amelia started to laugh. "Isabella, you're just a twisted freak. You think you're a savior, but you're just as cruel and bloodthirsty as your deranged mother. Stop making excuses. You're only satisfying your twisted desires. And that slut Lily, I was planning to have some guys take turns with her before graduation. How did she die? Right, dealing with a freak like you. She deserved what your mom did to her." I forcefully gripped her chin. "I've never thought of myself as a good person, but how can you live off someone else's life for 15 years and still hurt others without remorse? You call me twisted. What does that make you, if anyone's to blame? It's her own bad luck, not like I wanted to trade places. It's her fate. She had it coming," Amelia said. "Amelia, you remind me of a certain bird. On the surface, you appear harmless, but deep down, you're profoundly malicious. This bird is both wicked and lazy at heart, relying on deception to usurp nests for reproduction. How are you any different from them? What gives you the right to speak such cold words?" Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of a figure in the depths of the master bedroom's porch. "Right, as death approaches, all you have left is your venomous tongue." I pulled out a dagger and cut off Amelia's tongue, then stabbed her repeatedly in the abdomen. As she lay dying, I poured the formalin I had prepared onto her wounds. Formalin can preserve, but once it contacts human flesh, it corrodes it. That should be punishment enough for her. Blood pooled on the floor, and Amelia, her mouth full of blood, was unable to speak or move her hands, struggling in pain on the ground. Jordan emerged from the master bedroom, Amelia's bloody tongue lying at his feet. "Long time no see, Miss Isabella. You certainly didn't disappoint me." Jordan, an infamous villain, was like my biological mother, both skilled in deception. His modus operandi involved turning living people into specimens. He had killed numerous people, and after my mother was shot, he had caused several bouts of social panic. The police had been investigating, but due to the vast search area and the randomness of the crimes, it was difficult to pinpoint a suspect. Later, with the outbreak of the zombie virus, he became even more reckless and developed a taste for human flesh. Jordan knew my biological mother, otherwise, he wouldn't have pursued me like a hunter stalking its prey through 10 cycles of reincarnation, even brazenly stating his desire to eat me, until the apocalypse ended. He was eventually captured by the military and died by gunfire. I think, to a large extent, the survivors in this apartment were killed by him. The reason he hadn't acted until now was merely to use Amelia to witness a game of prey killing each other. He and my biological mother were cut from the same cloth, enjoying manipulating others and filled with indifference. In fact, I had always known he was tracking me, from the second day after I left. I monitored their every move from the back door of a nearby villa. Initially, I was just being overly cautious, but with Jordan's appearance and the reincarnation of my fake sister, I discovered new amusement and tactics. Amelia not only remembered the 9 times I tormented her, but she also revealed my true identity to Wesley's parents. They clearly didn't believe in such unscientific phenomena, otherwise, they wouldn't have been so easily deceived by me into coming to Qingyang University, becoming part of the specimen room, and even after the apocalypse ended, the military discovering these specimens would think they were Jordan's work. As for the message Amelia sent me 3 nights later, it was indeed because they were desperately hungry since Jordan had entered the villa, agreed with her, and took all their food. Unfortunately, Amelia miscalculated. Jordan was never going to help her, he was just using her to lure me out. Since that was the case, I also decided to use his plan against him, keeping them a bit longer to create perfect specimen models. Maybe it's a case of twisted minds thinking alike, otherwise, I wouldn't continually be called a kindred spirit by Jordan, nor would he insist on challenging me. I don't consider myself normal either. After all, I wasn't as devastated by Lily's death as I had imagined. Even the tears I shed in front of the police, I'm not sure if they were for Lily, or just to avoid suspicion. I stared up at Jordan, towering over me, and made up my mind. Facing an opponent so much stronger than myself, my usual strategy was to strike first and catch him off guard. If I could just immobilize him briefly, I had a chance to take him down with a single move. I moved swiftly, using the cover of darkness to hide and change direction, lunging with a dagger towards his blind spot. The sharp blade grazed a shallow mark on Jordan's neck. It didn't hit its mark. Jordan reacted quickly, seizing my wrist that held the knife and squeezing lightly, causing intense pain that made me drop the dagger. He grabbed my kicking leg easily and pinned me to the ground. Ignoring my struggles, Jordan wrapped his arms tightly around my waist while his legs heavily pressed down on mine, immobilizing me completely. He couldn't help but sniff at my neck, intoxicated by the scent of a young woman. I initially wanted to turn you into a specimen, make you my perfect piece of art, but you're too tempting. I can't resist the urge to devour you, Jordan said with a sinister laugh, and in the darkness, he opened his mouth wide, ready to bite deeply into my flesh. Never underestimate a psychopath's biting force, it rivals that of zombies. Almost instantly, I reached into my pocket for a small knife I had prepared earlier. Using what reach I had, I stabbed it into his thigh. I exerted all my strength, and in that instant, the 8-centimeter knife embedded itself into his bone. No matter how formidable he was still flesh and blood, incomparable to those zombies that could block out pain. Jordan stiffened suddenly, and I took the opportunity to break free from his grasp, disappearing into the pitch-black darkness. All around was pitch black, and Amelia on the ground wasn't dead yet, writhing in pain, her rapid breaths the only sound. Using his excellent night vision, Jordan picked up a scalpel and began searching the living room, scrutinizing every potential hiding spot, the sofa, tables, chairs, and the refrigerator. Stop playing hide and seek, my dear, it won't be just a simple devouring if I catch you, he taunted. The footsteps slowly drew nearer. I hid behind the refrigerator, my heart pounding. I checked the tools I had on me. Finding a piece of rope, after checking behind the sofa, Jordan moved towards the refrigerator. The footsteps grew louder and closer. When he was mere centimeters away, I pounced, seizing the moment before he could react. I grabbed both ends of the rope and looped it around his neck, pulling back forcefully. Jordan struggled in pain, the scalpel plunging deep into my arm. With each pulse, blood dripped more freely, yet I felt no fear, and bit down on his hand. The moment he flinched from the pain, he let go of the scalpel. Desperately lacking oxygen, his hands flailed wildly, thankfully. My mother had trained me in physical fitness since I was young. Though I couldn't match his strength head-on, I had enough to strangle him. Jordan lasted a grueling 20 minutes, tougher than I had anticipated. 98 days later, as the second wave of the zombie outbreak hit, I had already relocated to a basement hideout. A tornado swept through the city, turning skyscrapers into rubble in an instant. Not just zombies, but various debris circled in the tornado's core. becoming lethal weapons. Approaching meant certain death. In the city, only a few survivors remain, and many of those who have made it this far are not the best of people. This has been the case for generations, and it remains so today. Beyond my ability to change, I've seen too many engage in looting, killing, and abandoning their families, with groups fighting each other over interests. In this apocalyptic world, there are no friends, no family. No right or wrong, only survival is the ultimate truth. But isn't the very essence of being human our ability to discern right from wrong, even in the absence of order and law? As humans, we should embody virtue rather than vice. At the very least, we shouldn't harm our fellow beings to ensure our own survival. The saying goes, if no one offends me, I offend no one, but if someone offends me, I will retaliate. Everyone should maintain their own moral boundaries, otherwise we are no different from animals. The third wave of a zombie outbreak came 300 days into the apocalypse. A severe drought had hit, and with the relentless heat, water supplies were cut off. Before this, I had collected many airdrop supplies and had a good stock of bottled water. It lasted until the zombies were completely eradicated, and a large contingent of military vehicles crossed through the streets. I heard the sounds of people cheering and rejoicing. I knew the apocalypse had ended. Yet, I couldn't feel happy. My name is Isabella, the daughter of a serial killer. Since I can remember, my mother taught me how to torture animals. The first gift she ever gave me was a German military dagger. She taught me how to use it, showed me the various weak points on animals and humans, instructing me where to strike for maximum effect. She even demanded daily high-intensity physical training from me, like leg kicks, sit-ups, and push-ups, if she caught me slacking. Her first action upon returning would be to lock me in a cage without food for a day and night. In public, she always appeared gentle and kind, always smiling, but in front of me, she was perpetually cold. My mother would leave the house every day, sometimes returning late, sometimes not for days. Over time, I learned to cook and to be like my mother, charming others to win their favor for the necessities of life. Whenever she returned, I felt no joy, as I could always smell a strong fishy scent on her, like the smell of blood. I knew what it meant but never spoke of it. Under her long-term psychological control, I increasingly wanted to escape her grasp. In middle school, I was socially adept, easily gaining my classmates' favor and gradually understanding the manipulations of this age group. School was divided into bullies and the bullied. Such was life, with people mockingly superior to others. I despised them, yet I remained objective. One day, while on my way to a part-time job, I saw several schoolgirls surrounding another girl, slapping and kicking her, with a fashionably dressed girl recording it all. Initially, I didn't pay much attention. Later, I learned from classmates that the bullied girl was isolated because she was disliked by another girl in her class. Her name was Lily. Every time after school, I would see her getting bullied in different places, perhaps out of some personal bias. I gradually got close to her. After getting to know her, I realized she was more introverted, sensitive, and frail than I thought, always lacking confidence and continually doubting herself due to minor issues. Lily's parents were divorced, and she lived with her father, who always belittled her. After her father remarried, her life became even more difficult. Every time her father went to work, her stepmother would find various reasons to vent her anger on her. Even though she was an excellent student, she was constantly bullied at school by a girl named Amelia. Amelia would have thugs corner her, force her to eat grass from the roadside, lick shoes, eat chalk, and place disgusting liquids on her chair. They would even post videos of themselves slapping her on social media to show off. All of this was instigated and directed by Amelia. Each of these acts was incredibly malicious. All I could do was comfort her when she was sad, allowing her to release her emotions. Although I'm not very knowledgeable about the law, I remember well what my teachers taught me in class. I once asked her why she didn't call the police, and she told me despondently that it was useless. I thought she was just scared. So I once called the police deliberately when Amelia was making a video of her kneeling down. The police arrived quickly, and everyone involved was detained. Teachers and parents from the school came too, but what awaited Lily was not justice, but her father's insults and slaps. Amelia, backed by the juvenile protection law and her parents' influence in the city, got off with just a verbal warning, video deletion, a written promise, and an apology, along with a small amount of compensation for emotional distress. My first reaction to this outcome wasn't sadness for Lily, but an unprecedented excitement. I knew my opportunity had arrived. From the beginning, my approach to Lily was never out of kindness. Since middle school, I had been looking for the right person. This person had to be someone who had been abandoned and ridiculed by everyone. Only then would they be valuable. Because only then would I be the only one she would desperately protect, and that right person was Lily. My mother is beautiful and shrewd, usually deceiving others with her superb acting skills, always cautious even around me. Given the technology was not very advanced at that time, I still haven't caught her in the act of murder, but she has one fatal flaw: she cannot stand her territory being infringed upon. Later, I would warmly invite Lily to my house, and she gradually moved from being shy to accepting the invitations. Whenever she was upset, she would come to my house for comfort, and our relationship became increasingly close. My mother did not disappoint my expectations. One night, she caught Lily and threatened me to kill her. It was the first time I saw such undisguised excitement in my mother's eyes, like a demon from hell. In my plan, I refused her, angered her, and naturally fell at a disadvantage in our fight. Lily, trying to save me, got stabbed and bled to death. I will always remember her agonized, twisted face. Although she was in pain, she insisted on shaking her head at me, squeezing out the words with her dying breath. I've wanted to die for a long time. Isabella, live well for me. After Lily's death, I found her diary, disappointed by her biological family, amidst the recent uproar about Wesley's family searching for their daughter. Lily had secretly investigated her own origins and had always known that Amelia's parents were her real parents. She had called the police before, but just as before, it was useless and only led to more intense retaliation. Even at the police station, she witnessed her biological parents' unlimited doting on Amelia, no matter how big the mistake. Amelia just had to act spoiled and pitiful to receive the indulgence and care Lily could never even dare to dream of. In that moment, Lily knew clearly, even if she were to be accepted into that family, there would still be no place for her. She gave up, and I took her place. Soon after I joined Wesley's family, Lily's parents and brothers showered all their affection on Amelia. Anything she wanted, she would fight me for it. Relying on her status in the household, she constantly provoked me. She not only enjoyed bullying others but also liked to play the weakling in front of me. Calling her pitiable was an overstatement to make me submit. Amelia even got the thugs who had bullied Lily to attack me, but her plan backfired. I dealt with those thugs, and they ended up being detained. I started to retaliate, but my brother and parents sided with Amelia. That brainless, deluded brother of mine always thought I was jealous of her, and believed that I was the one bullying her. Then, when the zombie outbreak occurred, I tormented them across 10 lifetimes. In the first lifetime, as they emerged from the basement, I pushed them one by one into the zombies and watched them get devoured. In the second lifetime, I killed them directly. In the third, I chopped them into pieces and threw them into a horde of zombies. In the fourth, I started studying dissection and used them as my subjects. In the fifth, I cut out their tongues, severed their limbs, and turned them into helpless creatures. In the sixth, I raised them only to have them kill each other. Including this 10th life, I made them suffer tenfold, 100-fold the pain Lily endured. On a lush, vibrant afternoon, I sat alone by Lily's grave. Lily, it's been a long time. I haven't visited you. There's something on my mind I need to tell you. From the beginning, I was using you. I approached you just to understand your situation better and to gain your trust. I know you won't forgive me after hearing this, but I still need to say, I'm sorry. And Amelia, I made her experience the pain you went through. Everything is over now, and I will heed your advice to live well. Lily's side story 2. When I was 8, my dad discovered my mom's affair. From then on, he began drinking heavily and came home late from work, frequently losing his temper and hurling the vilest insults at my mom. All I could do was hide in my cramped bedroom, listening to their arguments and the sound of breaking bottles and jars. Gradually, as my dad grew tired of fighting, the way he looked at me changed. I was too young to read emotions in someone's eyes, but I could still faintly sense his barely concealed hostility. After my parents divorced and my dad remarried, my already fragmented life got even worse. My dad despised me, and my stepmom abused me. At school, just because some peers disliked me, I faced ostracism. Once, while I was washing dishes, I accidentally broke a plate. Upon seeing this, my stepmom flew into a rage. Worthless girl. Can't even wash dishes properly. What good are you? She grabbed a broom from the corner and started beating and kicking me, her words venomous as if laced with poison. Your dad is a failure too, earned so little, always complaining. No wonder his ex-wife ran off with someone else, marrying such a loser. You really deserve to be cheated on. If it weren't for your father, I wouldn't have ended up like this. It's all your dad's fault. You're no better. Looking just like a child born out of wedlock with your mother's affair. No wonder your dad despises you. My stepmother's beatings grew fiercer. I didn't care about the insults, but when she revealed those cruel truths and shattered my last hopes, it felt as though someone was slicing through my soul. Before my parents started fighting, my dad used to care about me. He would stand up for me like other parents did for their children. He used to ask if I was being bullied at school. Even if I came home late, he would panic like any other father. When did it all start to change? Maybe it was when he found out about my mom seeing someone else, or perhaps it was when he heard the neighborhood gossip. I finally understood the suspicion and disgust hidden in his gaze every day. Tears inevitably slid down my nose. There was a moment when I wished I knew nothing, always submissive. I grabbed my stepmother's broom and struggled against her, even in such circumstances. I chose to defend my father. Don't you dare talk about my dad like that. I won't allow it. But it was futile. I was left bruised, and my dad paid me no attention. Even when he spoke, he just looked at me coldly. Lily, I work hard enough already. Earning money every day isn't easy. And you, just a consumer at home. Can't you understand a bit? But it wasn't always like this. The dad I knew before wouldn't look at me with such unfamiliar eyes. When I had a fever, he would carry me to the hospital. If I was hurt, he would gently pat my back and soothe me. Lily, it's okay, Dad is here with you. No. After being punished, I was locked in my room, not allowed to come out for meals. He didn't even glance at me. At school, Amelia didn't let me off either. She provoked the whole class to ostracize me, forcing me to do her homework. Sometimes during tests, she would drag me into helping her cheat. After school, she would join up with thugs to beat me for about 35 minutes, tired out. She would then force me to do humiliating things to record and boast about in her circle of friends. I couldn't understand why she hated me so much. One day, while kicking my stomach and laughing loudly, she revealed a long-hidden truth. Lily, do you know what I hate most about you? It's your face. The more I look at it, the more disgusted I get. You say your dad doesn't care, your mom cheats, and your family's scandals are all over the place. How can you still show your face at school? Why don't you just die? Later, I found out that Amelia wasn't really her parents' child. There had been a mix-up. Her targeting me was because I bore a striking resemblance to her real mother. With this realization, I secretly checked my birth certificate. Everything came to light. But I wasn't as happy as I thought I'd be, because after Amelia drove me to a mental breakdown, I finally chose to protect myself legally. But the outcome of the wait broke me again. Amelia's bullying intensified. At that moment, I felt abandoned by everyone. The whole world didn't seem to want me anymore. I drifted as if I had no place to belong. I started having nightmares every night, waking up in the middle of the night. The feeling of abandonment returned, never healing. Everything in my life was stitched together like a blanket. I thought there was no hope left in my life. That was until one day, when I was cornered by some thugs and thought I was about to endure another heartbreaking beating. A girl appeared. Her name was Isabella. Isabella was a serene and warm girl, gentle and soft-spoken, always carrying herself with grace and gentleness. Every time I saw her, I could feel a warm aura about her. She was like a little sun, subtle yet warm, calm but fiery, always wearing the purest of smiles. She encouraged and comforted me. She showed up whenever I was sad. Gradually, she became my first friend. Sometimes I asked her why she always smiled, and she told me, smile through everything. A girl who smiles often won't have bad luck. Inspired by her, I learned to smile. Even when she called the police with good intentions and my father scolded me, I didn't blame her. I would wait for her near her school as she got out, and I saw boys confessing to her in front of everyone. Isabella was very gentle. Even when she rejected them, she did so clearly and decisively, leaving no room for fantasy. I envied her and asked, it must be nice to be liked by someone, right? But Isabella just dimmed her smile and said nothing. I thought Isabella was a very happy girl. After all, she was so gentle, loved by many, and her family must be filled with warmth and harmony. That was until I visited her home and heard her say, Lily, let me tell you something. I come from a single-parent family. My mom rarely comes home, and I grew up with help from neighbors since my dad died early. I have to stay alone in this run-down house. You are the first friend I've brought home. Perhaps out of empathy, fearing she felt lonely, I started visiting her often. One evening, as it was getting dark, she suddenly took my hand and held it tightly. Be careful, there have been many disappearances lately, and the victims turned into specimens. We should avoid taking shortcuts. Don't go home alone. It's better to be safe from criminals. Isabella spoke earnestly, every word showing her concern for me. I felt both happy and warm inside, holding her hand tightly. Overwhelmed with emotions, I said one word, okay, Isabella, you will always be my good friend.